Dean Yang says it is interesting, and that a student who catches the principal's attention turns out to be extraordinary. The class activity closes, and I come back to reality to find a message waiting. The group owner Na Bing is inviting me into the Genius Exchange group, which surprises me, since Lee Cheon-hang threw me out himself. I accept, and the room detonates. They welcome me as Yang Hyung, price the canon at 2 billion, and note that I am really willing to spend. One asks whether I am seriously cultivating an ancient spirit tree with a cycle that long, and another proposes that all past unpleasantness be laughed off, provided I never bring a zombie virus when visiting. I have gone from a rat everybody wanted to kick to Yang Hyun in one afternoon. People are exactly that realistic. Often someone's strong and a crowd lines up to get a boot in, and become the strong one and the identical crowd comes around, wanting a relationship. A rabble, in other words. I mute the group and go back to my presidential suite at the Heavenly Fragrance World. On the eve of the college entrance examination, the resource collection ranking closes. It puts me at 85.7 billion points, Na Bing at 67.92 billion, and Lee Cho-hang at 66.94 billion. The assessment ends. My believers are pushed out of the alien divine kingdom, and I take first place exactly as I wanted. I wonder what building the school hands over this time, since the last one reshaped my kingdom from the sky down. I take my consciousness inside and pull up the full account of myself. Divine Lord of 1 million square kilometers. With the talent field emitted, my believers stand at 46 Tier 5 beings, 53,274 at Tier 4, and 2,250,000 at Tier 3. Under them are 10,300,000 at Tier 2, 25,700,000 at Tier 1, and 11,700,000 mortals. My kin are listed separately as 22,718 little spirits. The techniques run from the Everlasting Spring technique down through the Locking Heaven array and the Extinguishing God array, both E rank and both at Grandmaster realm. Beneath them sits the Black Tortoise Life Extinguishing array at D rank, beginner. My faith points read 37.9 billion, with 795.8 coming in daily. The buildings column is where the money went, 20,000 moonwells and 20,000 sun springs. 100 B rank Monkey Wine Springs, and the B rank 100 Herb Spirit Pivot Academy. Then comes the special life building holding my 1,000-year ancient spirit tree, currently gestating little spirits, and a special building enlightenment stone. After that comes the defensive line, the B rank Poison Bee Queen, the B rank Treant King, and the B rank City Annihilating Cannon, with 50 C rank 1,000 poison swamps and 10,000 patrol robots. Under Wonders it records Bongnay Island placed and Spirit Peach Mountain placed. Under Assets, it gives 610 Tei, the small mineral veins, assorted spirit fruits, medicinal herbs and spirit plants. In D rank, E rank, and F rank weapons, it does not itemize. The explosive phase of believer growth is over. Under tenfold evolution, 400 or 500 years have run through my kingdom, and even the faces at Tier 5 have been replaced. Without entering the Tao to break through to Chi refining, a Tier 5 being does not live past 400 years. My high tiers are a dynamic quantity now, some dying of exhausted lifespan and some of illness, with new breakthroughs filling the vacancies. A divine kingdom needs resources and opportunities, but what it needs most is time, and time is the one thing I am never short of. Everything Yang 2 gathered inside the alien divine kingdom so long ago, and about 7 days back the last elephant loan debts came off my books. Because I intend to raise the elf race properly, I took Yang 1's recommendation and bought a great many more moon wells and sun springs. I can feel the difference in the air. The ancient spirit tree grows noticeably faster, and maturity may not take 100,000 years after all. As my believer's aptitude improved, both the E rank Extinguishing God array and the Locking Heaven array came through to Grandmaster realm. That is what I have been waiting on. Before the college entrance examination, I have one more Divine Kingdom simulation battle in me, and the first reason is the Ney family's payout. It would be a waste to leave more than 10 billion faith points on the table. The second reason matters more. I want to sprint for the top 10,000 of the Yang County Divine Kingdom simulation battle. University prospectuses make it a major weighting on admissions, and one first high school student on record wrote it into Songun Academy by special admission. Compared with the Na family's subsidy, I value that far more. My goal was always one of the 2 strongest universities in the Federation. Better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix is a line poor schools feed applicants at recruitment season. And it is soup, not analysis. A mountain chicken spends its life envying the phoenix's tail, and I would rather be the tail. So I ask what my chances are, and Yang 1 reports that all information on the simulation battle is classified at the federal level. Nothing leaked online is worth feeding into a model, which is her way of telling me she does not know. Yang 2 comes at it from the other side. It is rare even in the big cities, he says, for a high school student to take an E-rank formation to Grandmaster realm. Since Yang County sits out in the provinces, he puts my odds at considerable. I tell them to select my strongest 10,000 elite soldiers, and Yang too adds a recommendation of his own. 10,000 sets of B-rank weapons would raise my army's combat power by roughly 60%. My eyes light up at that. If my believers are not strong enough on their own, the wealthy thing to do is buy the difference. B-rank weapons are war supplies for gods, and the strongest creatures I own are tier 5, so 10,000 full sets is not fair to anyone standing in front of it. I ask the price and get 20 billion at current market value. Then I put the virtual helmet on and go into the Na family base, where Na Chiol answers a single message with coordinates. He greets me by announcing that the great genius Yang has been making a name for himself. First place in the senior year twice running, a future without limits. Fatty Na is burly and enormously stout and moves like something half his weight. He spins a full 360 degrees on the spot and folds me into a hug, and I cough hard several times. After weeks in the soft company of the heavenly fragrance world, being seized by a man of 300 pounds produces an involuntary shudder. I tell him I want to buy weapons while pushing him off as politely as I can. He says the examination is close, and half the Na family's younger generation has been begging him for orders, but that he has quietly held a portion back for me. Then he sits me down and produces some excellent green tea. He asks young Master Yang what grade of weapon he needs and how many sets, and the title lands on me before I decide how I feel about it. I tell him 10,000 sets of B rank. The tea leaves his mouth in a spray. He asks me to repeat the grade, and when I say B rank again, he asks whether I have broken through to demigod. Then he visibly wants to slap himself for asking, since I am a high school student who has held a divine kingdom for a year at most. I tell him no. He apologizes for being confused and points out that I do not have a single believer in the chi refining realm, so the equipment makes no sense to him. I answer honestly that it is for the divine kingdom simulation battle. He asks whether I know the market price and reminds me these are war consumables. I nod without hesitating, because to anyone else this is a misallocation, and to me, 20 billion faith points is 1 week of income. He coughs and says he has the stock, but can only offer 5% off at the absolute most. Before I answer, he starts explaining that he is not being stingy. The cost structure above B rank is brutal, and even the gods inside his own clan get 5% as a courtesy and nothing better. There are forging buildings out of the mechanical divine kingdoms on the market, the spirit weapon forge and the heavenly weapon pavilion among them. And with those, a kingdom mass produces anything at C rank or below. B rank is a different business. It needs high-grade ore smelted properly and magic arrays engraved into the weapon, and every piece is forged by hand by a master blacksmith. His kingdom has raised fewer than 10,000 blacksmiths, and every forging operation in the Na family together cannot keep the family's own gods supplied. Nothing he makes is ever hard to sell. I tell him I understand and transfer 19 billion faith points into his divine kingdom. He whistles and says that among the Na family's younger generation, only Miss Na Bing and I would dare spend at the scale. So I ask whether she has been buying B-rank weapons too. He says she has, with exactly my idea in mind, and warns that she is already over 8,000 points. He hands me the loaded card, and I thank him and go. On the way out, I decide that once real Divine Kingdom wars start, I will raise my own blacksmiths, since engraving arrays into steel takes chi refining at minimum. That is the whole reason B-rank costs what it costs. Then I pull up the Na family simulation battle board with a thought. Na Bing holds first as a tier 1 genius on 8,761 points, at a win rate of 53.2%. Master Na Hun holds second as a tier 1 genius on 8,110, at 54.5%. Further down at 72nd sits my own name as a tier 2 genius, on 1,244 points at 92.5%. And 109th is Na Myungyun, also a tier 2 genius, on 1,122 points at 50.2%. On the eve of the examination, every genius in the house is grinding points, and my rank has slid while I was not looking. I load the B-rank weapons in and start the Divine Kingdom simulation battle with 46 tier 5 beings and 9,954 tier 4 beings, every one in a full set. The system confirms my identity as a divine creature and my 10,000 believers, and asks whether I want to begin matching. It matches immediately and generates a volcano, and my opponent brings a few dozen tier 3 believers, which my army finishes in the time it takes to walk across the field. In a commercial apartment somewhere in a distant star region, a man pulls off his virtual helmet. He complains bitterly that every time he strings a few wins together, the system feeds him a monster and ends the run. In the real world, I have been away a few months, and inside my divine kingdom that was thousands of years. This is not competition, it is suppression. 2,000 points, 3,000, 5,000, 7,000. 300 consecutive wins later, the reward has climbed from 10 points a match to 100, and I stand at 7,542. I tell it to continue and it generates grassland. This time my consciousness settles above my army, and I finally take the matchup seriously. The opponent has 40 tier 5 creatures with everything else at tier 4, and every one carries a full set of B rank weapons exactly like mine. After enough matches, I have worked out the ranking mechanism. Stay on a winning streak and the system hands me opponents whose strength runs far past my current total, and if I beat them, the reward per match climbs sharply. It is a system built for grinders, since crawling up 10 points at a time would take a lifetime. I set the locking heaven array and let my believers hold formation. When the two armies meet, mine suppresses theirs almost from contact. The strength is there and the equipment is good, but the array comprehension is not, which means another high school student. By the 7,000 point mark, most opponents have their arrays at Grandmaster, so a gap like this marks a kingdom not long awake. Past believer aptitude, the largest factor in array comprehension is time, and without the evolution talent, I doubt even the basic myriad spirits return to origin array would be at Grandmaster. Their grand array breaks and I take plus 201 points to 7,746. Out in the real world, the Naya family's group channels catch fire, because a genius with an outside surname has walked into the family's top 10. They tell each other his ranking sat still so long they have forgotten he existed, and that any genius who makes the top 10 becomes a god eventually. Na Seungpung got lucky, they say, and has genuinely recruited a hero for the house, and somebody tells the old man to stop hiding at home giggling and come out and talk. He is in his virtual world office with the family board projected across one wall, and Na Yu sits beside him with her pregnancy showing now. He says with enormous satisfaction that with a grandson-in-law of this strength he would like to hear what Na Hyun and his wife have to say. Na Yu asks her grandfather whether her husband is really that impressive, and she asks it while staring at an 8th place finish. She once thought I was a freeloader sponging off her family, and now the arithmetic reads the other way. He laughs and tells her Bioma is 300 matches into a winning streak, and a few more will put that girl Na Bing behind him. She asks, delighted, whether her husband has a chance at the top 10,000 in Yang County. His face closes at that. He tells her it will be difficult. Past 10,000 points, the opponents are old men who have been alive 300 or 400 years, and my divine kingdom has been awake 1 year. It has been more than a decade since any high school student out of Yang County made the top 10,000. When Na Bing awakened her ice spirit root, she made the same bold claim, and the distance is vast. He tells his granddaughter to keep a level head, since with results like these, my tier 1 genius investment is a certainty. Once I reach university, he says, even her grandfather may not keep up with me. He is genuinely happy, and he has earned it. His children all died in battle for the family, and his only granddaughter carries a damaged divine kingdom and a short life. My points keep going. 8,000, 8,300, 8,500, and the streak carries me to 9,341. That puts me at the top of the Ney family board as a tier 2 genius at 99%, with Na Bing second and Master Na Hun third. Na Bing looks at that board and her cold, composed expression finally slips. She asks the empty room why I am this strong and bites her lip over it, and the word for what is on her face is not envy but refusal. The old Na Bing, who awakened a B-rank ice spirit root, had ambition higher than the sky and looked down on every peer in Yang County. She announced she would enter the top 10,000 while still in high school and go to Songgum Academy on the strength of it. The ideal was plump, and the reality came out thin, and only with graduation in front of her did she understand what that goal costs. She is a tier 1 genius backed by her father, the third-order god Na He, with resources far past anything her peers see. None of it fixed the fact that her divine kingdom has not developed long enough for her arrays to stand against the older generation. And past 8,000 points she has not moved an inch. What she is watching now is somebody her own age with a real chance at her goal. His opponents grow exponentially stronger with every step, and his win rate is still 99%, which can only mean he has been winning since the first match. She says quietly to nobody that perhaps I do have a chance at the top 10,000. Inside the simulation space, I take plus 307 points to 9,832, and I let my breath out slowly. That match cost me 60% of my soldiers. Without Yang 2's recommendation on the B-rank weapons, the streak would have died right there. I tell it to continue, and the space evolves into a mountain range. And when the enemy resolves, I am genuinely stunned. Their cultivation is nothing, 10,000 believers all sitting at tier 3, but the equipment is unlike anything on the market. Every one of them is sealed head to foot in silver white armor with matched thrusters mounted behind, holding laser longswords rather than iron. Creatures that weak should not have been matched against me at all, so I take no risk. I order the locking heaven array and hold a defensive posture, because when you do not know the depth of the water you use defense in place of offense. Then the enemy line takes their swords into the right hand and, with one uniform motion, pulls metal cylinders off their chests with the left. What comes out is a solid weight of bullets. I am looking at a god who walks the mechanical path, and the shock is real. Mechanical gods are so scarce that among 2,000 third-year students in Yang County there is not one. The bullets come down on my formation like rain. My front rank has shields up and stops 90% of it, and those shield men all practice the Vajra indestructible technique. Even so, every round that clips past a shield goes straight through the man behind it. The fire does not thin and it does not pause, wave after wave with no gap to breathe in. I order the shield line to cover and the army to charge, because those weapons are plainly a grade above my patrol robots. I have already lost hundreds standing still, and a lamb that stays where it is put gets slaughtered on schedule. At about 100 meters, the enemy retracts the barrels and comes forward with the laser swords out. I switch to the extinguishing god array and use offense as defense. Then the two lines meet and what I watch stops making sense. Every time one of those weapons touches a soldier of mine, it discharges a current strong enough to stall even a tier 5 creature. Worse, my men cannot land a hit on anything, because those enemy soldiers make no wasted movement at all and the speed is not something a tier 3 creature should own. My believers are individually stronger, and the enemy erases every one of them without a single casualty. The system deducts 1 point, drops me to 9,340, and asks whether I continue. My followers are already resurrected, but I do not start anything, because I have a question first. I ask Yang 1 what those weapons were. She tells me it is non-mass-produced, fully automatic equipment out of a mechanical divine kingdom. It carries intelligent chips and dodges, defends and attacks on its own, so what I was fighting was the gear rather than the men. I ask whether that is even allowed, and I am not being rhetorical, because a Grandmaster extinguishing god array just got me laid out like fish on a board. She answers that the simulation battle restricts only identity and troop count. Weapons of any grade are synchronized and projected into the space as they are. Since the core advantage of a mechanical divine kingdom is its weapons and its intelligent control, the opponent is in no violation, so I ask whether I can buy them. She says I can, that each set costs 100 million faith points, that my funds are severely insufficient, and that without a mechanical heart the combat power drops sharply anyway. The gear on that field was worth 1 trillion faith points, so I was not outfought, I was outspent. I let it go, since with this matching mechanism nobody wins forever, and I am not going to draw a monster like that every match. What I want is the top 10,000 in Yang County, and the 10,000th place sits at 10,240 points. The matching grinds on, and my points swing back and forth, and I am more nervous than I expected. 10 straight wins and 1 loss carries me over 10,000, with the win rate down to 94.2%. 8 wins and a loss puts me at 10,124, and 5 wins and a loss reaches 10,200 at 83.1. After that it becomes 3-1, 4-1, 2-1. The line creeping toward the mark and never crossing it. My opponents are divine creatures drawn from the whole human race, and more than a dozen attempts leave me short. I take a breath and tell it to continue, because even if I get in on luck I am getting in. +1 point, +2 points, -1 point. Then the system says the battle is ended. Current total 10,241, win rate 63.2%. Every match is a knife edge now and none of that matters, because I am in. The federal notice arrives in a stack, congratulating me on a status upgrade, listing me as a human prodigy, and raising my mall, information, and security permissions. The next line says that on the judgment of the federal government's highest intelligent life, I am specially awarded an A-rank resource building called a Spirit Vein, of immense value and placed under confidentiality. The last message informs me that I have met the conditions for exemption from the college entrance examination. Taiko Academy extends an invitation, and their staff arrive within 1 day, so I should prepare to leave for my studies. I sit there completely stunned. Outside, the school's upper management and the government offices go up together, with intelligent life systems flashing red across every desk that matters. They repeat that a high school senior named Yang Biome is listed as a human prodigy, that Taicho Academy personnel arrive in 1 day, and that the local government must cooperate fully. The news moves through the upper reaches of Yang County like weather. In the virtual world, a man in a well-cut suit with his hair combed flat demands of Principal Han what exactly is going on. A genius like this appears in First High School, and he, the county magistrate, finds out from a federal intelligent life reminder. The magistrate of Yang County is Wang Yun, a third-order god who almost never shows his face, and there is real resentment in his eyes. Hong Byong tells old Wang not to blame him, since he found out at the same moment. The boy went from a bit over 1,000 points to over 10,000 in 1 night, and nobody could have predicted it. The magistrate asks, suspicious, whether the school had been cultivating him quietly all along. Hong Byong says he noticed the boy after the midterm exams and invested a wonder building in him, then stopped paying attention. He asks whether after this many years of friendship he would lie about it. The magistrate rubs his temples and asks what they are supposed to do now, with Taicho Academy already carrying the boy off. Yang County belongs to the sphere of Cheonnam City, and that mayor is a Songun Academy graduate. By every normal expectation, a prodigy found here would have been recommended upward into Songun Academy, since a figure at that level is a treasure everyone at the top fights over. Instead, the boy tripped the Federal Intelligent Life from nowhere, and the Federation handed the placement straight to a competitor. Recommending a human prodigy would have brought Yang County a reward, and now the question is whether they escape a reprimand. Hong Byung sighs and says to tell the truth, then adds that the magistrate's office carries the most responsibility, so old Wang stands at the front. In the Na family base, the room is no calmer. Na Seungpung is on his feet with a finger in Na Hyun's face, demanding whether the man has any shame. He has escalated a quarrel between children to a full family meeting for that useless son of his. Na Hyun answers that a Tier 1 genius consumes an enormous volume of resources. If the boy's surname were Na, he would have no objection, but the surname is Yang. Na Seungpung tells him that in that case his wife Yo Myung should stop speaking at family meetings, since her surname is not Na either. Then the table jumps, because Na Hae has slammed it, which he almost never does. The family head stands and asks what this bickering is supposed to be. If the family means to flourish forever, it will not be on internal scheming but on rules that are fair and open. And the elders answer him as one. Breaking into the top 10,000 inside a single year of awakening proves my divine kingdom has limitless potential, he says. And a genius like that deserves the whole family's effort. Then he looks around the room and begins to announce that from this moment Yang Baeom will be a Tier 1, and stops mid-sentence. His expression moves several times across his face and he sits back down without finishing the word. Na Seungpung asks what the matter is. The family head says there is no need anymore and tells Elder Seungpung to return to the real world and bring me to the Na family grounds. When the old man makes a confused noise, Na Hae explains that I have been admitted to Taiyoko Academy. A specialist collects me tomorrow and escorts me to Taecho City, and the news came from Principal Hong directly, so there is no possibility of error. The room goes silent and a dozen assembled gods sit there refusing to believe it. Early admission with a specialist escort is not a courtesy, it is a statement, and every god at that table can read it. 11 years ago, First High School produced a genius who broke into the top 10,000. That boy barely scraped a recommendation to Songung Academy and passed a battery of tests before he was let through the gate. Taiko Academy are not fools, so their intelligent life has found something irregular. Nothing else explains rushing from Taiko City to Yang County in a single day, since the travel cost alone is astronomical for gods out of a small place. One elder proposes that since I am not formally enrolled, they should sign a family contract immediately. Another begins to say that the boy's divine kingdom almost certainly conceals a hidden talent. Na Hae shuts both of them down. Federal protection of prodigies is extremely strict, he says, and nobody is to attempt petty tricks. Whatever happens, I came out of the Na family, and with that thread alone, the scraps off my fingernails will keep the house fed once I am a high-order god. He sends Na Seungpung to the Yang City villa to collect me and his granddaughter. Then the family head announces 3 things. The first is that the B-rank building in the storehouse, the Pill Tower, goes to me free of charge. 10,000 divinity points come out of the family account as well, for my living expenses at Taecho Academy. The elders' faces twist with pain and not one of them argues, because the investment is obviously worth making. The next announcement is that Na Yu's status rises to family Tier 1 genius. The Grand Elder will take the family head's command token to Cheonan City to find Great Master Gu Hawk and ask his help repairing her damaged divine kingdom. He adds that when her child is born, whatever talent it draws, it receives Tier 1 genius treatment from birth. The Grand Elder says he will leave shortly. Then Na Hae turns to Na Hyun with the pressure of a third-order god rolling off him, and asks whether the son is named Na Myung Hyun. Na Hyun promises in a shaking voice to discipline the boy and keep him out of my sight forever. The family head tells him that is not enough. Na Myung Hyun is expelled from the Na family, and he can find somewhere quiet and raise the boy himself. Na Hyun says he obeys, and sighs where nobody can hear it. An elder beside him offers comfort of the kind gods offer, telling him the boy was useless anyway and he can simply have another. They have all broken through and hold long lifespans, he says, and cannot afford to be trapped by personal feeling. Several more join in with the same advice, and Na Hyun cannot find an argument. When the room empties, Na Hae messages his daughter, and in under 15 minutes Na Bing stands in front of him with her head down. He asks whether being beaten by someone her own age has left her unconvinced, and she says only that she is unwilling. He tells her gently that once she reaches university and sees more of the world, the pride will wear off. She should not overrate a B-rank talent, he says, and in Cheonan City she might not make any list. Yang County is too small, and he should have sent her and Master Na Haeon away years ago. She asks, with formation study waiting, why he called her here. He tells her it is confirmed that Yang Baeom leaves Yang County tomorrow for Taecho Academy. She purses her lips and says I have very good luck, and that she will work hard enough to catch up. He can see she has not understood the size of it. In the last 100 years, 3 students out of Yang County squeezed into the top 10,000 while still in high school, and one of them ranked above 9,000. He asks her to guess where those 3 went to university. She shakes her head because the information is not secret, but she has never had time to look it up. All she knows is that the top 10,000 carries an automatic 100 points on the first part of the examination, and a shot at a recommendation. Of the 3, he says, exactly 1 entered Shongung Academy, and the other 2 never received an invitation at all. She looks at her father in confusion, since my ranking sits at the very tail of the top 10,000. He tells her the one who entered Shongung Academy was rated a C-rank genius by the federal government, and asks her to guess what evaluation I was given. Then he answers it himself. Prodigy, he says. Rated a prodigy of the human race by the Federal Intelligent Life, and he holds her eyes while he says it. She does not know what that actually means, but she reads her father's eyes well enough. She asks how it is possible, since I plainly hold an F-rank resource talent. He says the words hidden talent and nothing more. As a mere third-order god, he does not know much, he tells her. But for Taecho Academy to be this desperate, my hidden talent must be extraordinary. Then he takes a breath and his expression changes. The family has decided to invest in me completely, he says. But between the Na family and Yang Baeom, there is still a missing link. He calls her Bing-ah, says he intends to betroth her to me, and asks whether she is willing. She gets as far as asking what kind of joke this is before her consciousness is crushed under a pressure like mountains and seas roaring at once. Na-hei watches her with perfectly calm eyes and lets the aura of a third-order god stand undisguised. The man sitting there is no longer her kind father, but the family head of the Na family. He tells her coldly to kneel, and under that weight she goes down on both knees beside the table. Then he begins to itemize. When she was small, he took her to the city government to see the world, and she ate a piece of 10,000 fire spirit fish and came home asking for more. The family bought it for her, and he asks whether she knows that was a B-rank spirit beast. Before her divine kingdom ever awakened, he says the family had identified her ice spirit root and spent a fortune acquiring the ice god temple. He lists her monthly allowance, the assistance of the family actuary, the rare resources, the personal instruction of gods. From the moment she was born, she was the apple of the Na family's eye, living in luxury and courted by everyone. Having taken all of that, now that the family needs her, she refuses, and he asks whether she thinks that is right. His tone stays level and every sentence lands on her back like a weight measured in tons. She gets out the word father twice and starts to say she will become very strong. He cuts through it. Her talent is B rank, and with everything the Ney family can pour into her, reaching his own level is the ceiling of her life. A massive opportunity sits in front of the house, and he asks whether she is truly unwilling to make a sacrifice. This small. She asks about her cousin Na Yu. He says it does not matter, that the strong hold more rights in choosing partners, and reminds her that her own mother was his 28th wife. She tells the family head she understands, and the pressure lifts the instant the words are out. She lowers her head and stands up slowly. He tells her that when she leaves the virtual world, she goes straight to the villa in Yang City, and that she is to get it done for him tonight. She answers family head again and disappears out of the space. Na-hei looks a while at the place where his daughter was standing and says to nobody, that little Bing is still young. His choice was not only for the family, he says, but for her as well. Whether he believes that is a question I have no way of answering, because I was busy being hauled into a car. I come out of the virtual world, and Na Seong-pung has hold of me before I can go inside and count what I earned. He drags me and Na Yu into the vehicle at a pace that would look, to any neighbor, exactly like fleeing the country. I ask grandfather what this is about, and he says we are going to the Na family grounds. When I point out that the virtual world would have done, he says the family head wants to see me in the real world, which ends the conversation. Halfway there, the old man tells me, without taking his eyes off the road, that whatever happens, I am to take good care of little Yu. Na Yu goes tense and asks whether his divine kingdom has been attacked. He rolls his eyes and asks the silly girl whether she is cursing her own grandfather. She puts a hand on her stomach and says he sounded exactly like a man entrusting an orphan. He drives us in and takes us up into the family head's reception room. It is the first time I have laid eyes on Na-hei, and he carries none of the airs a god is entitled to. His presence is gentle the way a warm spring wind is gentle, the sort of man a stranger wants to stand closer to. I greet him as family head, and he tells me to sit down at once, apologizing for the short notice because I leave for Taecho City tomorrow. The speed of it is what I expected from one of the 2 great houses of Yang County. Since I have been admitted, he naturally wants the relationship tightened before I am out of reach. I share no blood with the Naff family, and the more value I show, the more they have to put in, which is arithmetic rather than betrayal. I also owe them because without their help I would have reached none of this. He asks whether he may call me Bioma, and I tell him he is far too kind. He produces a wine he brought back from Cheonnam City, says it has great benefits for the physical body of a divine creature, and tells me to taste it. I thank him and drink the glass down in one swallow. In front of a third-order god, I take no precautions at all. If the man wanted to do something to me, there is nothing I could put between us, so the sensible posture is to accept openly. He watches me empty the glass, and the corner of his mouth curls. Then he tells me that since I have been admitted early, the Na family will increase its investment, and hands over the B-rank building, the Pill Tower. He describes it as the most core strategic resource in the family treasury, and says I will understand its value when I break through to demigod. I thank him while looking at the card, openly surprised, because a strategic resource has just been given away with no condition attached. Then he adds that the family is also awarding me 10,000 divinity points unconditionally. Consumption in Taicho City runs high, he says, so this is meant as living expenses, and the funds land in my divine kingdom tonight. I look up at him with my face doing something undignified, because 10,000 divinity points converts to 1 trillion faith points. That crosses from generous into faintly ridiculous. I swallow and ask the family head how I am supposed to repay any of this. He smiles and says I am the genius of his Na family, so why talk about repayment? Work hard at Taicho Academy, he tells me, because once I break through to high order god, the family will be content to bask in a little reflected light. Na Yu stares at her family head, as though he has begun speaking another language. As a direct descendant, she has heard of the Pill Tower and knows it is a treasure gods themselves need, and she has never seen 10,000 divinity points in one place. He tells me to have another drink, says the driver will take us home shortly, and fills my glass again. The wine is genuinely potent, even with what my body has become. 2 glasses in, my head turns heavy and I start sweating through everything I am wearing. I get as far as telling the family head that something feels wrong with me. He says I must be drunk and that the driver will take me back immediately, and a man in a black overcoat comes up under my arm and walks me toward the stairs. Behind me, Na Songpum looks at the wine glass on the table and starts to say the family head's title as a question. Nahe answers without any decoration at all. Little Yu's talent is too poor, he says, and even with everything the family can give her, a breakthrough to God will be difficult. All of this is for the family, and the old man understands perfectly well. Na Xiongpeng sighs and does not argue. Na Yu asks her grandfather what the two of them are talking about, and the family head changes the subject smoothly. He tells little Yu he has sent the Grand Elder to Cheonnam City to find Great Master Gu Hak, and that the man will resolve the damage to her divine kingdom. Her whole face lights up and she asks whether it is true. Since the day I revealed my talent, her life has done nothing but improve, and the one fear left was that she would not live to watch her child grow up. Hearing that it can be repaired leaves her too happy for words. He goes on, telling her that once it is restored, the family grants her Tier 1 genius treatment and sends her back to university. From the day it is born, her child will be a Tier 1 genius as well. She feels the excitement, and underneath it something flickers. Raising a Tier 1 genius eats a vast quantity of family resources, and the family head has just handed out 2 allocations in one breath. That is the moment she senses something is not right. He explains it as her husband's divine kingdom, having limitless potential, and the chance that I lead the entire Na family higher. Na Xiongpeng comes over, pats her shoulder, tells the girl she is pregnant and should not stand this long, and sends her downstairs to rest. Once she is gone, the old man asks which one the family head is arranged. Na He says his daughter, Na Bing. Na Songpeng says the methods are impressive, and Na He waves it off, saying it is all for the family. Bing and little Yu were close once, he adds, and after Bioma becomes a god, the two of them may well need each other. Then the old man asks, since both are marrying the same man, whether the seniority does not become a mess, given that he is the grandfather and Na He is the father. Na He tells him to get lost and points out that he is probably a few thousand years the older. Na Songpeng chuckles and says he was joking, since the family head has always come out on top when resources were allocated. In the car, my head keeps getting heavier and my whole body runs so hot that all I want is to get out of my clothes. I do not remember arriving. What I remember is a body with a cool aura catching me somewhere inside the room, and a voice asking what is wrong with me. It tells me not so fast that she is not ready, and asks whether I have lost my mind. Then the voice says the word poison, and asks the empty room whether Na He really considers her his daughter. After that, there is nothing at all. I wake the next morning feeling completely refreshed, with energy running through me, and nowhere to spend it. There is a soft body in my arms, so I lower my head and kiss it. I tell Yu Ya that last night was wonderful, ask whether she gave me a cold bath, and thank her for working so hard. Both pairs of eyes open at the same instant with our lips still touching. The silence in that room is total, the kind where you can hear the building settle. Then a heel comes into my abdomen hard enough that I nearly bring up bile, and I am clutching my stomach and sweating while I ask Na Bing what she is doing here. Na Bing is the top figure of Class 1, 3rd year, and she is also Na Hei's daughter. A third-order god's daughter has just spent the night in my bed and been kissed on the mouth by me on reflex. Then last night arrives in my head all at once, and I look at her with an expression I would not want photographed. I ask Bing Nuno what happened, whether she and my finger goes from her to me and back and will not stay still. She sits on the bed without moving, watching me with a perfectly level gaze. I ask whether we should perhaps say something, and then I venture, very carefully, that last night She takes a deep breath and tells me I have quite the repertoire, and that it looks as though I learned a great deal at the Heavenly Fragrance World. Then she wraps the towel around herself, stands, and walks into the bathroom somewhat stiffly. That is the moment I understand exactly what has happened. The Na family had drugged me and I slept with the man's daughter, and my face does something complicated at the shape of it. Since my divine kingdom awakened, my physique has done nothing but strengthen, so getting drunk stopped being possible a long time ago. The wine was doctored, and there was never any doubt. Was it necessary, though? If the whole household had already agreed among themselves, what kind of man refuses? Na Bing carries an aura that makes a person want to conquer something, and I had wondered about it before. As long as she nodded on her own account, failing to rise to the occasion would insult the entire sex. So the honest summary of my feelings is that a night that good was wasted on a man who was unconscious for it. Then I freeze, because there is a real question buried in what she said. How does Na Bing know I have been going to the Heavenly Fragrance World, and which of my friends leaked it? In two separate houses on opposite sides of Yang County, Lee Song-taik and Lee Soo-ho sneeze at the same moment, and each wonders who is talking about him. Na Bing finishes her bath, dresses, and comes back to sit down on the bed beside me. She tells me, without being asked, that none of it was my fault, that her father drugged me and that she agreed to it. I ask why, and I am genuinely at a loss. She says the family needs to win me over and that she is the tool. Then she tells me that one day she will rely on her own effort to catch up to me, because she is not my appendage. Then she produces the marriage certificate and tells me to sign it, and dictates the terms flat. Our marital relationship carries no restrictions on either party. Our Divine Kingdom assets are managed separately. If I have physical needs, I can find her in the virtual world. If I want offspring, she will send me an address after she graduates high school, and since she does not expect to get into Teiko Academy, I am the one who comes to her. She can carry a child so long as it does not interfere with her divine kingdom. The child may take my surname and the cost of raising it gets split 50-50. Having said all of that, she does not wait for a reply and gets up to leave. I call after her to wait, and when she asks what it is, I tell her to add me as a friend. If she runs into trouble, she can come and find me, and while my strength is nothing to boast about, I am wealthy enough to help her develop her divine kingdom. She tells me it is not necessary. The door shuts behind her hard enough to speak for itself. I am left sitting there caught between amusement and exasperation, because her personality really is too cold, and because I was unconscious for the entire thing and would very much like to live it again. The degree to which the Na family values me is honestly still a puzzle. Setting aside the strategic grade buildings and the 10,000 divinity points, they have now pushed their own direct line prodigy daughter into my bed, purely to win me over. Things having come this far, I have no idea how a person is supposed to repay any of it. Since none of it harms me at the moment, I am thick-skinned enough to accept it calmly and tell myself that if I ever become genuinely capable, I will simply give it all back then. I turn my eyes to my watch and find 5 emails waiting. Congratulations on ranking in the top 10 of the Na family, with a reward of 1 billion faith points issued. Congratulations on ranking first in the Na family Divine Kingdom Simulation Battle, with a reward of 10 billion faith points issued. The Academic Affairs Office of First Middle School congratulates me on ranking first in the Divine Kingdom Resource Collection, and grants a special reward of 1B grade building, the Immortal Breeding Tower. The Na family adds a resource reward of 1B grade Alchemy Tower and 10,000 divinity points. The last one is a federal government notice granting 1A grade resource building, a spiritual vein, classified, burn after reading. My consciousness sinks down into the Divine Kingdom, where Yang 1 and Yang 2 are already waiting for me. They congratulate me on becoming a human race prodigy in the same breath and with the same timing, which they do more often than they realize. As my intelligent lives, they naturally know everything that has happened, so there is no point pretending it did not. What I actually want to know is what the evaluation even means, and Yang 1 answers before I finish asking. The federal government sorts every genius of the human race into 6 evaluation levels. At the top sits Peerless Prodigy, then Human Race Prodigy, and beneath those the 4 graded ranks of Genius, A through D. According to the historical records, anyone who receives the Human Race Prodigy evaluation and does not die young ends up somewhere between a 4th-order god at the floor and an 8th order god at the ceiling. Hearing that, the Na family's sudden change of attitude stops being a mystery and turns into simple arithmetic. Their strongest member is Na He, a 3rd order god, and the first 3 orders are all counted as low order gods. Once a god breaks through to the 4th order, the divine kingdom itself changes in kind rather than in degree, and the god crosses into the middle orders. Having a middle order god to lean on would carry the whole family somewhere it cannot otherwise reach. The family head really does act with speed and resolution, and I find I respect it even while being the object of it. To the Na family, I am still only a son-in-law, a relationship separated by a layer of paper, and betting the house on that layer is a decision most people would flinch from. Thinking about it further is useless, so I stop. If I ever become an existence the Na family cannot reach, then for the sake of Na Yu and Na Bing I will help them. If my strength never gets there, their investment simply burns. Either way, there is no loss in it for me now, so I may as well accept it with a clear conscience. With a thought, 3 cards float up in front of my eyes, and the buildings loaded into them are the Alchemy Tower, the Immortal Breeding Tower, and the Spiritual Vein. I tell Yang 1 to pull the specific information, and blue light projects from her eyes into 3 light screens that unfold in front of me. The Alchemy Tower is a B-grade functional building meant to help believers refine medicinal pills, built around a stable heat source system that gives precise control over temperature, spiritual power, and the shifting properties of medicine. With it in place, the success rate of pill refinement climbs by roughly 2/5, while furnace explosions and spoiled batches fall away. Its layered refinement zones match themselves automatically to the rank of whatever is being made. The Immortal Breeding Tower is the second card, a B-grade building holding 100,000 seats that slowly raise the cultivation aptitude of whoever sits in them. Cultivation speed rises by something close to 3/4, breakthrough success by nearly 1/3, and the emergence of heart demons drops by 1/5. It is worth the most to believers below the Golden Core level, which describes every last person I have. The Spiritual Vein is the 3rd and the heaviest, an A-grade resource building described as a core resource point condensed out of heaven and earth, capable of producing 1 million spirit stones every 30 years. Its internal circulation is self-contained, converting the energy of heaven and earth into usable resources without ever needing to be fed. It also buffs the surrounding environment on top of that by thickening local spiritual chi. The evaluation line at the bottom calls it a top-tier resource point with long-term stable supply capability. One of the core buildings of any divine kingdom. Reading through all 3, I get a rough sense of what I have actually been handed. Refining medicinal pills requires believers who have broken through to the chi refining realm, so the Alchemy Tower is really something prepared for the man I will be after I become a demigod. For now, it is furniture. The Immortal Breeding Tower is the one I took a liking to back in the school storehouse, and it matters immediately because it lifts the cultivation speed of everyone inside it. 100,000 seats is not many against my population, but I can simply put my highest believers in them and let the rest wait their turn. With a little luck, one of my 5th-tier believers might cross the boundary at last and break into the chi refining realm. The Spiritual Vein is the one that makes my expression go slightly regretful, which is an absurd thing to feel about an A-grade building. What I need most right now are buildings that accelerate believers, and my divine kingdom is already drowning in resource-type buildings. Combined with the 10,000 divinity points from the Na family, my funds have passed the point where spending them is even a constraint. My divine kingdom is a mountain of gold at this stage. If I mined every ounce of it and forged the whole mountain into weapons for my believers to wear, I still could not use it up. The output inside already runs far past anything the believers consume. Out of curiosity, I ask Yang 1 what a spirit stone is actually worth, and she tells me 1 divinity point buys 10,000 of them. Which means, I say slowly, that I have essentially been handed another 100 monkey wine springs. She nods and congratulates me, then adds the part that matters more. The Spiritual Vein will lift the environment of the whole divine kingdom, and will cover the spirit stone demand of my believers all the way up to the day I become a god. I wave a hand and tell her to load all 3 buildings wherever they best fit. The cards in my hand dissolve into streaks of light and vanish, and the Alchemy Tower, the Spiritual Vein, and the Immortal Breeding Tower come down onto Bongnay Island together. The next moment, the entire world shakes. The Spiritual Vein takes root, and pure spiritual chi comes up out of the ground in a flood, spreading like a tide. It pushes the already dense immortal chi up another full level until the air is nearly solid, and every breath circulates spiritual power on its own. The Alchemy Tower begins to run, its heat source and the spiritual chi crossing into a stable and efficient cycle. Milky light spreads slowly from the Immortal Breeding Tower, and wherever it passes, vegetation runs wild. Spirit plants change into better versions of themselves, and the living aura of every creature strengthens where it stands. The life of the divine kingdom surges again, and I stand in the middle of it and feel the whole thing rise. It is worthy of an A-grade building from the federal government. Standing as the god of this place, I can feel the entire environment climb a step. and the change is more violent than the arrival of Bongnay Island was. The spiritual vein is officially a resource-type building, but its function is nowhere near limited to producing stones. At this level of environment, every living thing here is going to cultivate faster than it did yesterday. In the long run, the benefits are past measuring, and if I ever get a few more of these, my believers will grow stronger in their sleep simply from lying in the air. With Yang 1 and Yang 2 handling the fine work, there is nothing left for me to manage, so I do not bother issuing a divine oracle and return straight to reality instead. I push the door open and find no sign of Na being anywhere. Downstairs in the living room there are only my parents and Na Yu, who looks up and asks her husband whether he slept well last night. She does it so mildly that it is worse than an accusation. My expression goes awkward without my permission, because I feel exactly like a man caught halfway through an affair. Perhaps she senses it, because she comes over and tells me gently that it is all right, so long as she has a place in my heart. Grandfather told her the whole story yesterday at the ancestral grounds, so she has known longer than I have been awake. Somewhere underneath she must find it uncomfortable, but she is not the kind of person who throws a tantrum over it. The strong hold more of everything in this world, whether that means buildings, supplies, or spouses. And while the human race has federal law, the bedrock under the law is still respect for strength. A wife cannot want her husband powerful and perfectly faithful at the same time, and she worked that out long before I did. What we have on paper is a marriage. In practice, it is closer to a vassal arrangement because it is not only her, but the whole Na family that now moves according to what I want. Prodigy of the human race is a single line of text, and it already outweighs the entire family in value. Growing up inside a great family, Na Yu sees further than most people ever need to. Be a good wife, cause her husband no trouble, and do not pick fights with matters beyond her reach. That is what makes the future better for her and for the child she is carrying. My mother stands to help her sit down, then turns to look at me with far too many things moving behind her eyes. The son she gave birth to has turned out to have talent that is a little too good, and even a mother feels a small distance opening when she looks at me now. She asks whether it is true that I am leaving Yang County today, since little Yu's grandfather told her so. I tell her it is most likely today, though I do not know the hour, and when she asks when I will be back, I have to admit, I do not know that either. We can meet in the virtual world whenever we want, I offer. She sighs and says we cannot always be in the virtual world, that they have lived in the real one too many years for it to feel the same. The one drawback of a son turning out well is that he leaves. The doorbell rings before I can find an answer for that, and my father hurries over to open it. Seeing who is standing there, I straighten and greet the principal properly, since as a student of number 1 high school I obviously know Hong Byong on sight. He waves the formality off and introduces the man beside him as County Magistrate Wang. My father, standing closest, takes an involuntary step backward and swallows several times without managing to finish the word. They lived in the Myeongwol community long enough that figures at this level existed only on television, and having one at the door is not something he was prepared for this morning. Wang Yun explains with a smile that because a human race prodigy carries a real risk of assassination by alien races, policy forbids telling many people. Only Principal Hong and himself have come to see off the great genius of Yang County. I tell them both that they are too kind and that I am only a divine creature who does not deserve the attention of 2 seniors. Wang Yun tells me there is no need to belittle myself, since an evaluation from the federal government's intelligent life does not come out wrong. As long as I do not fall along the way, my achievements will pass both of theirs. Then he asks the only thing he came to ask, softly, which is that after I succeed, I remember that I came from a remote place called Yang County. He asks that I help my hometown within whatever ability I end up having. I tell him seriously that I will. He lifts his head suddenly and says that it is here. The sky cracks open. A spatial rift is torn wide by force above the Yangsong Villa district, its edges holding a strange geometric structure, light stretched and bent along them while energy runes flicker faintly inside. A huge black shadow squeezes its way slowly out of the opening. It is a piece of future engineering that sits entirely outside anything I recognize, streamlined overall and yet edged like a blade. It is black from end to end, dark red energy patterns moving across the surface now and then the way blood moves through metal. The space around the hall keeps distorting, as though the thing does not belong to this dimension and the dimension knows it. A low vibration spreads outward, and the sky over the whole county turns heavy and oppressive. In an instant, everyone in the virtual world and everyone in reality feels the change and comes to their windows to look up at it. The megastructure settles into a hover directly above the villa district, while the rift closes behind it, leaving only a stretch of sky that has not finished settling. A gap opens at the front of the hall, and a figure steps out slowly. She wears a robe in red and black, the hem drifting with the fluctuations of the void realm, a faint divine radiance moving around her. Wang Yun frowns up at her and remarks that a fellow Taoist who has only come to pick someone up hardly needs to be this ostentatious. Her voice comes back cold, telling him that this is the decision of the federal government's highest intelligent life, and that he is free to appeal if he is dissatisfied. Facing two third-order gods, her tone carries nothing but arrogance. She asks where His Highness Yang Biome is, and before I can answer, a pale blue beam settles over me. Identity verification complete, she says, and asks me to follow her. A gentle force takes hold of my body and lifts me toward the hull. She brings me straight into the interior. The vessel turns in the sky, space fluctuates and then tears, and Yang County is gone from underneath me. Behind me, though I do not hear it, I can imagine Hong Byung's face going sour as he complains that they are all third-order gods, and asks what she has to be arrogant about. Wang Yun tells him to let it go, that from her clothes she is a permanent resident of Taecho City. Identical realms mean nothing when the combined foundations of their two divine kingdoms might not match hers alone. Then he asks what hidden talent I could possibly have, if even my guide is a third-order god like them. Neither of them has an answer before they have to start worrying about what to tell the mayor. At the Na family grounds, Na Myung-hyun stares blankly at the patch of sky where the vessel was. His father tells him that he understands now, surely, that the family has decided to put everything into me. It is not only him who is worth less now, but his mother and father as well. He asks whether he really has to leave, and cannot make himself accepted, because without the family there is no stable supply and no future for his divine kingdom at all. Na-hyun tells him it is not open to discussion, that he will find him some distant county-level city and buy him a villa. Then he trails off and says it does not matter anymore, his gaze going colder as he waves it away. Na Myung-hyun was the most talented of his descendants, and he never expected the boy to bring down a disaster this size while being indulged. The child is essentially ruined, so the only thing left to consider is starting over with a new one. And the son lowers his head with resentment, flickering behind his eyes. In the virtual world, in the classroom of Class 1, Joe Wang announces that student Yang Biome has been admitted to Taecho Academy without examination, that the entrance examinations are coming. Everyone should work hard because they were high school classmates once, and there is some sentiment in that. The students look at each other with shock and envy and a thin edge of regret. The scene in the sky has already gone through the class group, and everyone understands what it means that Taecho Academy sent a third-order god in person. A divine kingdom grows on talent and grows harder on resources, and there is no doubt left that I am now something they will only ever look up at. The problem is that 8 or 9 out of every 10 of them spent last year targeting me, so the sentiment is thinner than the teacher is pretending. Somebody turns and looks at Lee Chan-hang with open blame, saying it was one thing for him to do it, but another to drag everyone else into bullying me. Now look, there is no chance of any of them benefiting later. Lee Chan-hang stares down at his desk with hollow eyes and does not move. Inside the hole there is a sense of nothingness, with countless points of electronic data flowing endlessly across the walls around me. My escort tells me her name is Dang Wool, and that she will be responsible for my safety until I break through to godhood. Her voice now is very soft, nothing like the tone she used on Hong Byung. When I ask why she keeps calling me Your Highness, she explains patiently that it is the rule of Taecho City. According to the potential ratings of the federal government's highest intelligent life, anyone at the prodigy level is addressed that way. I ask, honestly curious, why I received such a rating at all. According to the Divine Kingdom Awakening records, she says, my talent is an F-rank resource talent. After reviewing my past performance, the intelligent life concluded that I certainly possess a hidden talent, and a high-ranking one. Hearing that, my heart feels as though somebody has closed a hand around it. My SSS-Rank talent is the single greatest secret I own, and if it is about to be exposed, then everything I have built rests on sand. Taecho City is nothing like Yang County. It is one of the most prosperous cities in the entire human federation, and it is full of high-order gods. What worries me now is whether Taecho Academy has some method of detecting what I actually carry. It is not that I distrust the human leadership, it is that some secrets grow less safe with every additional person who knows them, and that is a rule with no exceptions. Dang Wool notices nothing wrong and keeps explaining, telling me that hidden talents cannot be detected directly, and that sometimes even the gods who hold them are unaware, so it is entirely normal that I do not understand my own potential. That last sentence makes my eyes light up despite everything, because I have known about my SSS-Rank talent since the day of my awakening. The only trouble has ever been that nobody outside can see it while it stays hidden. From the sound of things, whatever I have may not be as simple as the hidden talent she is describing. She confirms it, saying that because of the restrictions of the Divine Kingdom's laws, even the Federation's highest intelligent life cannot detect a hidden talent precisely. It can only infer the specific talent from other evidence using large-scale data. It analyzes the gene sequences of believers, the age of fossils, tree rings, and the shifts in the soil and the air inside a divine kingdom. From all of that, it reaches a general conclusion. As she speaks, she takes an electronic tablet from her pocket and holds it up in front of my eyes. Federal citizen Yang Biome, detected talent F-rank resource, total resource investment in the Divine Kingdom low. Judgment that the hidden talent is highly likely to be related to the flow of time. My heart climbs into my throat for the second time in 5 minutes, because the inference alone has all but named the thing exactly, and the computing power behind it is genuinely frightening. She tells me calmly that Yang County sits roughly 2 billion light years from Takeo City, that the ship has to cross the dark universe, and that the whole trip takes a day. Before then, she says she will help me test my talent, and when I ask how, she tells me she brought the equipment and gestures at the hemispherical space in the middle of the cabin. I take a breath, pause my evolution talent with a thought, and step inside. The voice inside verifies my identity as a federal citizen and asks me to release the restrictions on my Divine Kingdom. The moment I release them, a mass of miniature robots appears throughout the Divine Kingdom. Soil collection successful, ore collection successful, water source collection successful, and Divine Kingdom air negative pressure absorption in progress. Blood extraction from mortal, first tier, second tier, third tier, fourth tier, and fifth tier believers completed. One notice after another lands in my ears, and a workload of that size finishes inside a few breaths. All data collection complete, it says, analysis beginning, and then, after almost no pause at all, analysis concluded. Federal citizen Yang Biome possesses an S-rank talent, tenfold time flow. The machine stops turning and the hatch opens. Outside it, Dang Wool is reading the result off her tablet with no surprise on her face whatsoever, wearing instead the expression of a person whose guess has been confirmed. She tells me these are my current identity details and turns the screen toward me. It gives my name, my status as a Techo Academy student and divine creature, my talent as tenfold time flow at S rank, and my evaluation as human race prodigy with the information itself locked. My SSS-Rank talent has not been discovered at all. It has been mistaken for something else entirely, and the weight comes off my chest so fast it nearly makes me lightheaded. Tenfold time flow. The name alone tells me most of what it does, and it is not hard to see how the mistake happened. Since my awakening, my Divine Kingdom has been developing at 10 times the rate of everyone else's. The federal government's intelligent life really is something, to have taken hold of the general shape of my kingdom that easily from soil and tree rings. The effect of my evolution talent simply resembles tenfold time flow closely enough at the surface that the machine reached for the nearest match. Dang Wool congratulates me and says that an S-rank talent like tenfold time flow gives an enormous advantage in the early development of a divine kingdom. When I ask what it actually does, she answers with a question of her own. During this past year since my awakening, has my divine kingdom not developed far faster than other people's? I nod seriously and say yes, wearing a face of dawning realization while inside my head I am somewhere completely different. Under the acceleration of my tenfold evolution talent, I am entirely aware of every change in my divine kingdom. None of it has ever felt strange, because all of it has been under my hand from the start. She explains that once tenfold time flow activates, the flow of time inside the divine kingdom separates from everyone else's. Where an ordinary god gets 1 year of kingdom time per real day, I would get 10 years of cultivation for my believers. Then she gets to the flaw, which is enormous, because the talent draws a vast amount of energy straight out of the divine kingdom. Everything except the believers dies off in great numbers, plants and animals alike, and used carelessly it can bring the entire kingdom down. There was a student at the academy once who forced the talent through without sufficient resources, and the divine kingdom collapsed and took him with it, his Tao extinguished with the rest. I keep the enlightened expression on my face while the shock rolls through underneath it. Against an S-rank talent that eats a world to feed its believers, my evolution talent has essentially zero consumption. At my current strength, I still spend only 1,000 faith points a day to keep it running, and 1,000 faith points to the man I am now is indistinguishable from free. Tenfold time flow sounds more and more like draining every other kind of energy out of a kingdom in order to force the believers upward. My evolution talent accelerates the evolution of the entire divine kingdom under some higher dimensional rule, and it does not stop at the believers. The plants, the soil, and the rocks are all evolving with them. The two look similar from outside and are not remotely the same thing. One is pulling seedlings up by hand to make them taller, and the other is pushing the ground itself upward underneath the whole field. As expected of an SSS-Rank talent. Seeing me lost in thought, Dangwall assumes I am worrying about collapse and moves to reassure me, explaining that the resource consumption scales with the overall strength of the Divine Kingdom. The stronger it grows, the more it burns, so before my breakthrough to godhood, there is genuinely nothing to fear. She recommends that I buy as many resource-type buildings as I can before graduation, especially resource points like spiritual veins that generate spiritual chi continuously and can change the environment of an entire kingdom. Thinking of the spiritual vein already sitting in mine, I can guess the rest of it. The Federation's intelligent life almost certainly reached this same conclusion first, and that is precisely why the reward it chose to send me was a spiritual vein. The voyage is only a day, and in my current physique a night without sleep does not register. I spend it asking her about the rules of Techo City and come away with a great deal I did not have that morning. What shocks me most is that Techo Academy recruits over 1,000 people with S-rank talents every single year. The number staggers me and reassures me in the same motion, because in a gathering place for prodigies on that scale, being misread as an S-rank is not a thing anyone will look at twice. In a remote place like Yang County, a human race prodigy stands under a spotlight, and in the eyes of Techo City's high-order gods, the same title means a young person worth watering. Shortly before arrival, she hands me a chip the size of a fingernail and calls it the access key. It is required to enter Techo City in reality and in the virtual world alike, and I should store it in my divine kingdom. She asks whether I have purchased any intelligent life, and when I say yes, she gives me a drive holding everything about the city. It includes detailed explanations of the Techo Academy classrooms, the Techo battlefield, and the alien divine kingdom zone. I can have my intelligent life absorb it and adapt faster that way. The hall vibrates slightly, light flashes across my eyes, and the forward door slides open. I step out and the world in front of me changes completely. Techo City is nothing like the tranquil place I imagined. As far as I can see in any direction, it is a steel metropolis with no visible edge. Buildings punch up into the clouds with light and data running down their outer walls. The whole city moving like one enormous machine. Levitation tracks cross and recross overhead, while flying vehicles streak past like meteors dragging tails of light behind them. What actually stops me is the people. The flow of them along the streets moves like a tide. This is not a virtual projection or a set of remote consciousness connections, but a real, dense, nearly crowded mass of bodies standing in reality. The sounds of trading and bargaining and mechanical prompt tones twist together into a noise that is loud and somehow perfectly ordered. Some people open holographic interfaces right there on the street to exchange resources, while others carry physical containers to deliver high-value materials by hand. There are plenty of divine auras moving quietly through the crowd, trying not to be noticed. Information is flowing, resources are flowing, wealth is flowing, and every last piece of it is happening in the physical world. It is the exact opposite of the silence outside, where everyone lives inside the virtual world, and the streets are empty. I stand there for a moment, dazed and a little shocked, and mostly just confused. Dang Wool smiles at my face and explains that Techo City is a planet in the central region of the Human Federation, and that Techo Academy sits at the center of it. What I am looking at is the trading district. Trading like this, I say, and cannot keep the bewilderment out of it, because the efficiency looks terrible to me. She asks whether I mean to ask why it is not done in the virtual world, and I admit that I do. There are several reasons, she says. Private transactions, avoid taxes and save on fees. And what changes hands here is not ordinary material, but strategic-grade resources. Rare things are expensive, and there are items nobody can buy with divinity points at all. Then she tells me to treasure my time studying here, because the access key expires at graduation, and afterward coming back to trade will be extremely difficult. I follow her until we reach a small detached courtyard. She glances at the residence with something close to envy before telling me that she lives in a high-rise 2 blocks away. If I need to reach the trading district or go out for anything at all, I should contact her directly and she will keep me safe. This area is the school zone, she adds, and nobody dares cause trouble here. Then she gives me one last piece of advice, which is that my talent demands enormous resource support, so if any company wants to sign a contract with me, I can consider agreeing. My freedom may be restricted afterward, but only by becoming strong quickly can I go far. I nod, and then watch her hail a taxi and leave. A third-order god can fly through the air, but Techo City has a no-fly rule, so she rides public transport like an ordinary mortal. That does more to explain this place to me than anything she said on the ship. A third-order god in Yang County is a local tyrant who decides other people's lives with a sentence, and here she is a commuter. Even so, she is visibly proud simply to hold residency, and out in the wider world facing a powerhouse of her own realm like Hongbyong, she was still overbearing about it. The interior of the courtyard is very plain. Apart from being large, the decoration is roughly on the level of my old apartment in the Myeongwol community. I catch myself wondering whether the academy is afraid its students will sink into comfort and wants aesthetics instead. My physical living conditions are close to the bottom of my list of concerns anyway, since anything I want in that direction I can arrange inside the virtual world. What I want is information, so I ask Yang-won whether she has finished processing the city data. She reports that she has finished reading it, and I tell her to give me the parts that matter. To cultivate the strong, the federal government spent enormously to build Teo Star, and the entire planet exists to serve Teo Academy. Unlike other universities, there are no teachers holding lectures, and no competitions arranged between classmates. because the school runs on completely free-range education. I frown at that and ask what exactly I am here to learn. It is not that I need to learn anything, she says. It is my believers who need to attend classes and acquire knowledge. That stops me, because by the rules of the divine kingdom, inanimate things like buildings and grain can be manifested into reality through blank cards, but living beings with souls cannot. If they could, the sheer weight of population would have collapsed the outside world a long time ago. It is not reality, she clarifies, but a school built inside the virtual world, where believers from high-level divine kingdoms teach. The subjects run through cultivation techniques, martial skills, forging, alchemy, mechanics, and a good deal more. The fees at Techo Academy are very high and demand large quantities of divinity points. Hearing that, I find the whole arrangement genuinely novel, because I do not attend class and my believers do, which turns everything I understood about university education upside down. Thinking about it a second longer, it makes complete sense. With high-level believers giving direct guidance, my own people might break into the chi refining realm considerably faster than they would alone. She moves on to the second pillar, which is that Taiyo Academy has built a Taiyo battlefield inside the virtual world. It is much like the Divine Kingdom battlefield I already saw at Yang County No. 1 Middle School. The believer count is fixed at 10 million per participant, and those 10 million fight the alien army. The battlefield measures the comprehensive strength of a god's believers and ranks every student in the academy by the result. Rankings that break into the top million, the top 100,000, the top 10,000, and the top 100 each receive resource rewards, and this is the only reward the academy openly gives anyone. By regulation, I have to make my first attempt within 3 days. I ask what the graduation requirements are, and there turn out to be exactly 2. The first is breaking through to become a first-order god, which graduates you automatically. The second is staying 4 years, after which you are forced out regardless of what you have become. So the academy means it about absolute freedom, since a student who chooses to spend 4 years playing will still graduate and the school will not lift a finger about it. Judging by what Dang Wol said though, simply living in Techo City is a fortune in itself, and hard for gods to obtain, so presumably no fool wastes 4 years of it. The third pillar is the Alien Divine Kingdom Zone, a place where the human race keeps captured alien gods in captivity with their coordinates published openly to students. You may choose to fight a real alien god and to seize the foundation of their divine kingdom if you win. The Academy's special reminder is that once you choose to enter the war, the school's own gods will not interfere and the winner takes the entire legacy of the loser. The loser's divine kingdom foundation is seized, which means death and the dissipation of their Tao. Strength must reach demigod level to qualify, so it is not my problem yet. Still, hearing that the Academy keeps alien gods penned up and then lets its own students fight them on even terms raises the hair on my arms. I wonder how many geniuses die here every year. And then I understand that the Academy probably experiences those deaths as a number moving. Back at Yang County No. 1 Middle School, everyone thought the assessment method Hong Byung chose was too cruel. And from here, that looks like a gentle place. This is the real jar where things are put in together and only one comes out. And the Academy is content to weigh its own students against alien gods and see which side is left. The training method is ruthless enough. I am not particularly worried, since the alien zone is not mandatory and I am perfectly capable of lying flat if it looks dangerous. The last piece is the trading network of the city itself. Out in the wider world, strategic grade buildings have to be taken by force from the core assets of somebody else's divine kingdom. And inside Techo City, they can be bought or bartered instead. The catch is that goods traded here are not connected to the network at all and require the transaction to happen in person. Yang Won also mentions that she has found the official group chat for this year's freshmen and added me to it. I open my watch and find the unread count already piled past what it will display. The messages scroll continuously. Everyone joining now must be from the early admissions batch, one says. Another marvels at seeing an S-grade building in the trading area, only for the seller to notice they were a divine creature, decline to even quote a price, and tell them to get lost. Somebody complains that their Techo battlefield rank came out past 2 million, and they are bitter about it. Somebody else asks whether anyone is organizing dinner. There are far too many people and almost nothing useful, so I close it, put on my helmet and go into the virtual world. My permissions have risen enough that the category structure has changed. Alongside the mall, the God Forum and the Divine Kingdom Simulation Battle, a label for Techo City now sits at the very top. I can feel that a light tap on those 2 words would carry my consciousness straight into it. Before I can, an invitation arrives from Na Yu, and tapping the coordinates drops me into the room at the Yangseong Villa. She comes over and hooks an arm across my shoulder and asks whether I have already arrived. I tell her I got in not long ago and only just found time to log in. That is a legendary city, she says, and even the god elders of the Na family have never been there, so what is different about it? She is asking the way a child asks, which is not an expression I have seen on her before. It is hard to evaluate, I tell her, and I mean it. The buildings are not especially fancy and honestly look ordinary against the reputation. And yet the way the academy raises its students and the sheer noise of the streets are unlike anything outside. In Yang County, you barely see people outdoors because everyone lives in the virtual world. And in my third year of high school, I went to campus only a handful of times all year. Taecho City is so crowded it feels like a wet market. There is too much to complain about and I cannot find a way to explain any of it to her. She has news of her own and delivers it with her whole face lit up, which is that her divine kingdom has recovered. I am pleased but not surprised, because with my status where it is, her value inside the Ney family has risen along with it. The family head went to Cheonam City to invite a fourth order god for help, she tells me. Once that lord's believers entered her kingdom, one gentle sweep of soft power purified every trace of the Death Spider Emperor's poison. She is excited enough to keep talking well past the end of the story, and I let her. After she has run down and I have comforted her properly, I go into Teo City. By academy regulation, I need to attempt the Teocho battlefield as soon as possible, so that is where I start. The virtual world renders the entire city faithfully, though the version here differs from reality in one enormous way, which is that it has no crowds and no sound at all. A thought pulls my consciousness into the battlefield. The intelligent life asks whether freshman Yang Biome, participating for the first time, wishes to connect his divine kingdom and manifest his believers immediately. I say yes, because Yang 1 has already arranged the army. 46 5th-tier creatures, 50,000 4th-tier creatures, 2 million 3rd-tier creatures, and close to 8 million 2nd-tier creatures. That is the strongest population my divine kingdom currently holds. And since this is the virtual world and none of them will take real damage, I deploy every bit of it. I tell Yang 2 to take command, because although he is an exploration-type high-level intelligent life, commanding 10 million believers is well within him. He is unquestionably better at it than I am. Countless alien beings appear across from my army. Apes, wolf demons, tigers, lions, and more of them behind those. An enemy line that simply keeps arriving. 10 million of them, then 20 million, then 30. Yang 2 splits the believers into 10 teams and calls the Black Tortoise Life Extinguishing Array, using the power of the formation to hold the alien front. The beings the virtual world manifests are extremely realistic, and where the lines meet, flesh and blood go into the air and the smell of it saturates the entire field within seconds. In less than 10 million of my believers have fallen. I stand there genuinely stunned and ask myself whether the intensity here is really this high. At the start, those alien beings were only first tier, and one breath later they were all second tier, and one breath after that, third. Worse than the escalation is the arithmetic, because their numbers never stop and run 4 to 5 times my own force. If I had not comprehended the Black Tortoise Life Extinguishing Array, I genuinely doubt those 10 million could have held for 5 breaths. While I am still turning that over, the assessment comes through. Student Yang Biome, Identity Divine Creature, Divine Kingdom Talent, Tenfold Time Flow, School Ranking 8,400,000 and change, First Time Experience Reward 1,000 years of free course hours. I come back to reality, pull the helmet off, and sit with the number for a while. Past 8 million. Is my strength really that pathetic, or is the denominator simply beyond anything I have imagined? I ask Yang 1 how many students Techo Academy actually has. She reports that it recruits across the entire human race and that by historical data each year brings in fewer than 10 peerless prodigies and roughly 2,000 human race prodigies. Below them come 100,000 A-grade geniuses, 500,000 B-grade geniuses, and somewhere between 2 and 3 million C-grade and D-grade geniuses. The battlefield rankings include every student from freshman to senior year, and among them are over 2 million demigod existences. Adding all of that together puts the student body in the tens of millions at minimum. No wonder they do not care when their geniuses are killed by alien gods. In their eyes, a genius genuinely is a number, and I have to swallow hard at the scale of it. My divine kingdom currently holds around 40 million believers, and the figures Yang 1 just gave me describe people in the real world. As expected of the highest specification academy humanity has, I ask what the free course hours actually are. They are study time at the Techo Academy Study Hall, where the time flow matches the Divine Kingdom, so 1 day outside is 1 year inside. The 1,000 years is the total study duration for a single believer. For a single believer. My expression changes on the spot, because I currently have around 40 million of them, and averaged out that is not half a day each. She adds that the study hall is the single largest point of consumption in the academy, and that 1 divinity point buys only 100 years of course hours. So my reward for the entire battlefield run was worth 10 divinity points, I say, and roll my eyes at how stingy this school is. She explains that the gesture is mainly meant to make students understand what the study hall is worth, and that the real battlefield rewards begin only after breaking into the top million. Then she tells me, the part I should have thought of myself, which is that believers do not attend as one mass. I can select believers by aptitude and send them where they fit, so those with cultivation talent learn cultivation techniques and martial skills, while those with forging talent learn forging. High-level skills cannot be bought outright from the mall and normally have to be worked out by the believers themselves over generations, and the study hall compresses that time enormously. Whatever they learn accumulates as knowledge and passes down inside the divine kingdom afterward, and that is the correct way to use the place. Unlike simple things such as gathering and hunting, abilities like cultivation techniques, blacksmithing, and alchemy are not comprehended casually. Not one of my believers has reached even minor mastery in the B-rank everlasting spring technique, and if they could comprehend it inside the study hall, their cultivation speed on returning would climb sharply. I tell Yang 1 to select the 1,000 believers with the best aptitude and send them in to study the technique so we can see the result. She confirms it immediately and adds that the study hall has Foundation Establishment Realm believers, specifically teaching the everlasting spring technique, which is better than I hoped for. Report the results tomorrow, I tell her, and if the effect is significant, we will buy course hours in bulk and push everyone forward at once. I am not short of funds, and if this place works, I have no objection to paying it to hurry. I am considering whether to visit the trading area when somebody knocks. Opening the door, I find a man in a business suit standing outside who asks whether I am His Highness Young Baom very respectfully. I ask who he is while my expression tightens, because his aura marks him as a low-order god without any doubt. He introduces himself as a lawyer from Wondon Company hoping to sign an investment contract with me. He hands over the contract itself and tells me to contact him anytime if I have interest after reading it. Then he bows and leaves without another word. Opening it, my expression runs from pleasant surprise straight into a tight frown, and then I drop the whole thing into the trash. The investment from Wondon Company is genuinely not small. Signing would bring an immediate capital subsidy of 100,000 divinity points, along with 10 resource-type buildings, none valued under 3,000 divinity points each. That is only the initial figure, since the rewards climb sharply once I break through to demigod. As expected of a Teicho City company, they are generous. The conditions are proportionally brutal, because they require me to sign a 1,000-year labor contract with them after becoming a god. On top of that, I would hand over a fifth of everything my divine kingdom takes from the battlefield, for free. In perpetuity. No amount of investment makes terms like that worth signing. As expected, there is no free lunch anywhere in this world, and it is a pity nobody is recruiting me as a live-in son-in-law anymore. I am not the poor kid from the Myeongwol community any longer, and I already hold enough capital that under my tenfold evolution talent, the resource output of my kingdom covers my believers comfortably. Under those circumstances, there is no version of me that trades long-term freedom for short-term interest. The bell rings again, and I sigh and wonder aloud whether there are truly this many investment companies. Before pulling the door open, standing outside is an enormous fat man, a shade over 6 feet tall and well past 300 pounds. He is a divine creature like me, but the clothes he is wearing display runes constantly, and his divine aura is fully out in the open. A glance is enough to know none of it is ordinary. He introduces himself as Sama Bang, says he lives next door, and has come over for a visit. I glance at the small attic beside mine, give him my name, and mention that I only enrolled today. Come on, he says, let us go eat, since there are only 4 prodigies in this area, and now that everyone has arrived, we should have a small gathering. He does not appear to have considered that I might refuse, and simply leads the way, waddling ahead of me on a backside 3 times the width of a normal person's. I have nothing to do anyway and no reason to refuse him the courtesy, so I follow. Privately, I wonder what this brother grew up eating, and note that at this rate he will overtake Fatty Na inside a year. There genuinely is a restaurant not far from where we live. The waiter out front is all smiles and greets His Highness Sama. Sama Bang waves a hand and tells him to bring out a serving of their signature phoenix plume claws and not to worry about anything else. We are shown to the most luxurious private room on the 3rd floor. Pushing the door open, there are already 2 people inside. 1 man and 1 woman. The man has sword-shaped brows and eyes like stars, and the aura coming off him is powerful enough that he looks a single step short of breaking through to demigod. The woman has a quiet bearing, and sitting there she is like a pool of seawater with nothing moving on the surface of it. The last brother has arrived, Sama Bang announces, so he has called everyone over. There will be many places in Teicho City where the 4 of us need to cooperate, and we may as well know each other and be friends. He takes the seat of honor and gives me a look that says to sit down and talk. They introduce themselves in turn. The man is Ye Jionbong, direct line of the Bukai Ye family, S-rank talent myriad sword body, cultivation path. The woman is Mun Oksu of the Mun family of Cheonan City. S-rank talent water deity, cultivation path. Sama Bang says he has already given me his name, and adds that he is the 107th son of the head of the Sama family of Teicho City. S-rank talent devour, martial path. I give them mine. Yang Biome, S-Rank talent tenfold time flow cultivation path. Sama Bang asks curiously whether the surname means the Yeongnam Yang family, and I tell him truthfully that it does not. I come from a remote place called Yang County and no great family at all. From the moment I walked in, I could see that all three are stronger than me, and the bearing they carry marks them unmistakably as direct descendants of great houses. Unlike Na Bing or Li Cheon Hang, these three have a nobility to them that comes from occupying a high position for a long time. Though their manner is approachable, the pride behind their eyes does not hide. Mun Oksu frowns slightly at the name of my county, as though she has heard of the place somewhere before and cannot place it. Since the introductions are done, Sama Bang says, "Let us eat first and talk while we eat." He snaps his fingers and a card appears in his hand, and from it a great weight of food manifests onto the table. There are 4 of us in the room and the table seats 20, and it is now covered end to end. He apologizes in advance and starts before anyone else, explaining that because of his divine kingdom talent, not only are his believers enormous eaters, but so is he. He asks the 3 of us not to mind. While he says it, he uses his chopsticks to drop a large piece of meat into my bowl, then pulls the remaining 2/3 of the platter in front of himself. He tells us not to be shy and to talk among ourselves and pay him no attention. And then he goes to work like a man who has not eaten in a week. That entire plate of meat disappears into him in 2 or 3 bites. Looking at the unfamiliar meat in my own bowl, I am fairly shocked. I do not know what monster beast it came from, but the life energy coming off it is terrifying enough that I feel full simply from smelling it. It is hard to imagine anyone treating food at this energy level as a casual mouthful. I wonder privately whether the S-Rank Devour talent is what makes that possible. Ye Jianbong warns me from the side that this is water dragon meat from a Foundation establishment staged great monster. He ate a bowl of it 2 days ago and his stomach still has not recovered. Since none of us have young Master Sama's constitution, he says, I should take it slowly. I thank him and take a very small taste. Mun Oksu waves her right hand and a teapot appears on the table, and she offers it as mind-refreshing tea, a specialty of her divine kingdom. Her reasoning is that since young Master Sama is eating something that greasy, he may as well have plain tea alongside it. She pours a cup for all 3 of us. Sama Bang says through a full mouth that her tea is genuinely not bad. Then he asks how much stock she has and whether she will sell him all of it so his believers can try some. She tells him indifferently that there are 2 tons left in her kingdom, and that she will simply give it to him. Yi Jianbong produces a large plate of golden fruit from his own divine kingdom, and offers it around as sword spirit fruit. It tastes decent, he says, and young Master Sama and Brother Yang should both try some. I can see clearly that the attention of both Ye Jianbong and Mun Oksu is aimed squarely at Sama Bang, and that the intention to curry favor is not being hidden at all. Presumably it comes down to the Sama family standing behind him, since the background of a house that stands tall in a place like this needs no imagining. Since all 3 have brought out specialties from their kingdoms, I take out the monkey wine I brew. The moment the fragrance reaches him, Sama Bang's eyes light up and he snatches the entire pot across the table. He has not had monkey wine in a long time, he says, and he did not expect Brother Yang's divine kingdom to produce it as well. Then he drinks the whole pot in a single motion. I do not mind in the slightest, and simply take out 10 full jars and set them on the table, and the looks Ye Jianbong and Mun Oksu are giving me shift slightly. I may have no background, but it now appears that the foundation of my divine kingdom is not bad at all. None of the 3 are especially surprised by it because for an ordinary person to be admitted early to Teochew Academy, an S-rank talent alone was never going to be the whole story. Some measure of opportunity is expected. Ye Jianbong asks whether my kingdom can produce monkey wine in quantity, since we could trade privately and evade the tax. And I ask him how much he needs. 10,000 jars a month, he says, and I tell him I can do that. Even the scion of a great family like the Bouquet Ye family still thinks about reasonable tax avoidance, which tells me something about how this city works. Mun Oksu says enviously that a divine kingdom capable of 10,000 jars a month must have a profound foundation, and she is doing the arithmetic out loud. That output requires at least 100 monkey wine springs. For a divine creature to hold that many divine kingdom assets puts me not far off the prodigies of these great houses. I tell her with a smile that it is the primary income of my kingdom, and that those springs are what support the whole thing. Ye Jianbong glances at me and asks why. Since I have no family behind me, I do not simply find a major power to rely on. He points out that a recommendation from young Master Sama would turn the future development of my kingdom into a level road. Sama Bang tells him not to flatter him, that he is an unfavored son at home with no ability to recommend anyone. Then he adds, still eating, that his family's investments and geniuses of outside surnames are all handled by his 3rd brother. If old Yang ever needs it, he can mention it, at which point a specialized lawyer would probably come to interface with me. As the son of the Sama family head, he could certainly push a recommendation through if he wanted. But he and I are ordinary acquaintances who have met exactly once. The only reason the four of us are eating together at all is that we carry the same human race prodigy rating, and therefore the same value. He may look like a fat pig, and nobody who grew up inside the Sama family is a fool. The single most important word in any relationship is profit, and since the four of us are currently fair-weather friends, there is no version of this where he spends his connections on one dinner. That is a pity, Ye Jianbong jokes, since the Sama family is one of the 5 giants. If he did not already have a family of his own, he would want to follow young Master Sama too. I ask what the 5 giants are, and when he looks surprised, I have to admit that I only arrived in Taicho City today. My expression goes a little awkward, because having grown up somewhere as remote as Yang County, I genuinely do not know the power structure of the federal government. Sama Bang, who has cleared the entire table like weather passing through in the time it took us to talk, wipes his mouth and explains it without a trace of contempt for my ignorance. The 2 strongest powers in the human race are the federal government and the Virtual Universe Company. The federal government controls the law and the military and is the nominal supreme governing body. The Virtual Universe Company monopolizes the consciousness network, Divine Kingdom transactions and the data systems, which gives it command of roughly 7/10 of all information and resource flow. Below those 2 sit the 5 giant families. His own Sama family is an established noble house holding many core resource stars, leading strategic resource mining and military supply. The Ryuk Corporation is known for capital and has the widest reach of any of them, deep into the virtual universe industry and the Divine Kingdom trading system. It functions as one of the largest resource distribution hubs in the Federation. The Han military house is stationed year-round in the border star domains, fighting alien invasions, and controls elite legions of gods along with war resources at enormous scale. The Gu spiritual domain specializes in cultivation systems and resource cultivation, holding a great many spirit plant stars and spiritual vein stars, and supplies most of the medicinal pills and spiritual materials in circulation. The Jin Technology Alliance controls high-end weaponry, spatial wormhole navigation, and the development of Divine Kingdom auxiliary systems, which makes it the engine behind Federation technology. Beside him, Moon Oksu adds that the forces of the 5 giants are stationed across different star domains and fight alien races year-round to take resources and widen their influence through the wars themselves. At the same time, they penetrate every Federation industry through investment and shareholding, so resource mining, Divine Kingdom construction, virtual trading, and weapons manufacture all sit inside their sphere, one way or another. Her own Mun family is nominally the first family of Cheonan City, she says, and in reality, 2/5 of its shares are held by the Ryuk Corporation. That lands for me. The 5 giants sit a level below the Virtual Universe Company and the federal government. In practice, every force checks and penetrates every other force until the whole human race is inside one web of interests. No wonder Ye Gyeongbong and Monoksu are this polite to Sama Bang, when he turns out to be the 2nd-generation heir of a super noble house. Ye Gyeongbong asks Miss Mun why she enrolled here at all, since her family sphere falls under Shanggung Academy. Avoiding someone, she says, and her gaze goes cold enough that he politely lets the subject die. He changes it instead, asking whether we knew there was a genius in our year who broke into the top 900,000 on his first entry into the Taicho battlefield, which is genuinely fierce. Monoksu's eyes light up and she says he would have to have been a demigod powerhouse already in high school. More than that, Ye Jianbong says, since breaking the top million school-wide would make him outstanding even among demigods, and he cannot help wondering what the talent is. SS-Rank, Sama Bang says after a pause. When Moon Oksu asks how he knows, he tells us the man is an outside surname genius of his own Sama family, Ma Honam, holder of the SS-Rank talent martial god physique. He already had martial apprentice believers in the first semester of his final year of high school. His expression turns slightly unpleasant as he says it, and neither of the other 2 notices, because both of them are still busy being envious. Under normal circumstances, students with S-rank talents like ours would need to reach their 2nd or 3rd year to break into the top million, as expected of an SS-rank genius, and perhaps he will not even need 4 years to break through to godhood. There are prodigies above prodigies, and after arriving at a holy land like this, past achievements genuinely do not amount to much. Sama Bang says he has started a small group chat and tells us to accept the invitations so we can share news and privately trade any strategic resource buildings our own kingdoms do not need. None of us object. We are all still students focused on developing our kingdoms, and after we become gods, we will all be participating in the Divine Kingdom battlefield anyway. Making friends, helping each other, and cooperating is simply the consensus among gods, and everyone at this table understands the arithmetic of it. The 3 of us follow him downstairs, where his bulk fills the entire staircase from wall to wall. Somebody young gets squeezed against the railing and starts to curse him out, gets as far as calling him fat, and then turns his head and sees the group. His face goes white and he manages half of your highness. Yi Jianbang's eyes go cold and he tells him to stop blocking the way and get lost. And a strand of mysterious sword intent goes straight into the man's eyes. He takes a sharp step backward, sits down hard on the floor, and clutches at his face with an expression of genuine agony. Nobody's expression changes at all. Sama Bang and the others simply walk out of the restaurant as though nothing has occurred, which surprises me more than the act did. The Ye Jianbang, who was so approachable at the dinner table a minute ago, is apparently this overbearing the moment he faces another student. That was divine power, and he used it as easily as breathing despite being a divine creature exactly like me, which is what a great family genius actually means. He turns and asks whether, from my expression, I think he went too far. I shake my head and tell him I was only a little surprised. Tai Academy emphasizes potential above everything, he explains. With rankings running prodigy, heaven's pride, and then the A grade, B grade, C grade, and D grade geniuses beneath. In this city, the lower rank salutes the higher, and as long as no life is lost, beating these people is entirely permissible. When I ask how anyone knows our identities, he tells me the access keys sense each other and issue a warning near anyone at prodigy level. The absence of a warning proves the other party ranks lower than you. We are human race prodigies, he says, and the value we will contribute on the front lines later far exceeds an A-grade genius. Even against an A-grade demigod powerhouse, you can throw the punch and they will never dare return it, though the likely result is that you hurt your own hand. Hearing that gives me a much clearer understanding of the rules here. As long as nobody dies, you may insult and beat any genius ranked below you at will, and the entire educational model is built to force people upward by making the alternative unbearable. Moon Aksu steps up and jokes that we all have to work hard, because if we cannot squeeze into the top million within 2 years, our ranks will drop. This little sister does not want to be kicked out of the group chat. She even sticks her tongue out while saying it, which does not suit her at all. Sama Bang waves and says we should gather again when there is time, and that he will take us to a restaurant under his own family, which is much better than this one. Then he heads off toward his courtyard. Back home, I let out a slow breath. Dealing with the children of great families turns out to be simple in a way I did not expect. Hold strength and value and they show goodwill. If my rating ever fell to A grade, they would remove me from the group chat that same day, or possibly give me a demonstration like the one that student just received. Strength, I say to the empty room, and go to bed on it. The next morning, I go into my divine kingdom the moment I wake and ask how the study hall performed. The effect is significant, Yang One reports. 2 believers have already comprehended the everlasting spring technique to minor mastery, and the rest have made considerable progress on the technique besides. I pinch my chin and ask her how she thinks the divine kingdom should develop from here. Her report is direct. Funds stand at 10,340 divinity points. The population currently holds no fewer than 100,000 believers worth nurturing, and the study hall needs far more capital than it is getting. Beyond that, she says I should go to the trading district immediately and look for more buildings like the Immortal Breeding Tower. The more the better. I should spend my entire freshman year on breaking through to demigod. I raise the school's daily allocation to 20 divinity points and tell her to put all of it into the everlasting spring technique for now. 20 a day is 600 a month, which against my kingdom's current output is already a real weight. I have plenty of funds sitting there, but dumping the whole reserve into course hours is how people end up owning nothing but tuition receipts. I open my watch and message Dang Wool instead. Less than a quarter of an hour later, there is a knock, and she bows and greets me as Your Highness. I tell her we are going to the trading district. As we walk and the destination gets close, she explains that the district divides into resource-type buildings, special buildings, combat-type buildings. There are wonders here, I say, somewhat surprised. Of course, she answers. This is Taecho City, and essentially all strategic-grade resources can be bought here, and her face fills with pride as she says it. I ask whether everything really can be purchased, and she tells me that in my current clearance I may purchase A-grade buildings and below. Once my evaluation reaches prodigy or I break through to God, the clearance rises again. Take me to look first, I tell her calmly. B-grade buildings are already an enormous help to the man I am now, and S-grade is far enough away that there is no point aching over it. Arriving at the market, I feel the auras of a great many gods at once, and the pressure they radiate without meaning to makes it difficult to simply stand upright. Dang Wool walking beside me relieves most of it, since her own presence as a third-order god pushes back on the rest. Unlike Yang County, the city holds so many gods that a brick thrown off a rooftop would probably land on one. An old man comes forward to greet us, calling Dang Wool a fellow Taoist, and remarking that it has been a long while since she patronized his little shop. Then he registers what I am and observes that she has certainly landed a good position, since the rewards from Taicho Academy must be substantial. I bow and greet him as a senior, because he is a third-order god as well. He introduces himself as Wan Zhong and tells me there is no need for formality, that the rules of Taecho City differ from the outside world. As the cradle of human gods, this place weighs potential above strength, which makes my status higher than his. I thank him for the guidance. His little shop sells resource-type buildings, he says, and asks whether I have a goal in mind. I shake my head, since I came mainly to widen my horizons and have nothing specific in view. He offers me the product catalog, mentions that they deliver on site, and snaps his fingers, and blue light projects the whole thing onto the shop wall. Star Core Power Well, B grade 5,000 divinity points. Spirit Beast Breeding Ground, B grade 6,000. Elemental Fusion Pool, B grade 3,000. Further down, Spiritual Vein, A grade 15,000. Spatial Farm, A grade 50,000. Spirit Liquid Condensation Pool, A grade 120,000. As expected of strategic grade resource buildings, since I have essentially never heard of any of them. Seeing the Spiritual Vein priced at 15,000 raises a doubt I cannot immediately answer. Without evolution talent, a Spiritual Vein's monthly Spirit Stone yield comes to only 100 divinity points, which is 1,200 a year, and against that price the annual return sits under a tenth. Is that really an A-grade resource building, when a B-grade building like the Monkey Wine Spring returns better than half its cost every year? I put the question to Yang Won while I keep reading the catalog. There are two main reasons, she says. The core function of a spiritual vein is to raise the life level of the entire divine kingdom. The spiritual chi it generates slowly changes the ecological environment and makes cultivation smoother for everyone in it. The spirit stone output is genuinely secondary. The second reason is simply that resources like this are too scarce on the market, so the prices are held artificially high. She adds that as a divine creature, my kingdom's environment and my believer's strength are both still too low, and recommends prioritizing B-grade buildings for now. Record the catalog, I tell her, and we will organize the details through the mall when we get back. Even in one shop, the catalog runs to something like 1,000 entries. Filtering out what is actually useful to me obviously requires the computing power of an intelligent life, rather than my own eyes. We move on to the next shop without buying anything, and Wanzhong is not displeased by it in the slightest. Every building sold in the city carries extreme value, and outside these walls, any single one of them would be the core building of somebody's kingdom. The higher the value, the slower the liquidity. And since those buildings are currently sitting inside his own divine kingdom generating fixed income, he has no reason to hurry a sale. The next shop deals in special buildings, and I spot something familiar almost immediately. Special building, Fountain of Life, price 40 divinity points. It is the cheapest item there and sits in the first row. I am briefly speechless at it because the mall's suggested price for a Fountain of Life is 20 and this man has simply doubled it. Presumably that is the premium on strategic grade goods, and presumably everyone here pays it. Yang Won records the catalog the same as before while I keep walking. After that come the shops selling buildings that strengthen believers directly. Bloodline Evolution Pool, A grade 100,000 divinity points. Gravity Cultivation Ground, B grade 3,000. Immortal Breeding Tower, B grade 3,000. Martial Arts Evolution Platform, B grade 8,000. Seeing the Immortal Breeding Tower at 1,500, a full 600 over the mall's suggested price, produces a distinct pain somewhere behind my wallet. I ask the shopkeeper tentatively whether there is any discount on it. He raises his eyes slowly with visible displeasure, then senses my status and swallows whatever he was about to say. He tells me instead that everything sold in Teiko City is a strategic resource, and that bargaining does not exist here. Feeling that gaze, I am fairly embarrassed, and I am aware that without the human race prodigy status behind me, he would simply have lashed out. So I take the sting and tell him that in that case I will purchase 3 immortal breeding towers. He is on his feet immediately, telling me to take a seat and that he will fetch the goods at once, and he moves a chair over for me himself. 3 towers at once comes to 4,500 divinity points, which is a major order by any measure. He works quickly and has all 3 stored into blank cards within a few minutes. Then introduces himself as Joe Sochu and says I am welcome at his little shop anytime I have needs. I nod, transfer the points and leave with Dang Wool. That single expenditure has taken half my liquid capital. Only now does it become clear that in Teiko City no quantity of divinity points is ever enough. Take the Immortal Breeding Tower alone, and if I truly had the funds, even 100 of them would not cover the believers I already have. The study hall costs money, the buildings cost money, and their nurturing believers cost money. And no matter how much I earn, it cannot possibly be enough. My kingdom still needs far more resource-type buildings than it has. I am not worried about earning, since my 10-fold evolution talent multiplies my rate of return by the same 10. There is no sense buying investment buildings inside this city, where everything is strategic and the premiums are severe. If I want high-yield buildings, I can simply buy them from the mall at the honest price. The only reason I limited myself to 3 towers was to keep enough capital to keep investing at home. The last shop sells wonder buildings, and the catalog on the wall is the most interesting thing I have read all week. The Dragon Marsh Water Palace goes for 200 divinity points and the Immortal Chi Source for 10,000. Spirit Peach Mountain is 500. The Divine Wood Forest 50,000, and Bongne Island 11,000. Myriad Spirit Waters runs 200,000. Dragon Vein Land a full million. The Flat Peach Orchard 300,000. And the Mineral Crystal Grotto 100,000. As expected of this city, in searching deliberately, I find that both of the wonders currently sitting in my own divine kingdom, Spirit Peach Mountain and Bongne Island, are on sale here like produce. Perhaps I can put the remaining funds into Spirit Peach Mountains, I think. Aside from the spiritual vein, the largest income source in my kingdom is still the monkey wine, and increasing my investment to expand the wine business is the obvious move. Yangwon reminds me that Spirit Peach Mountain requires immortal chi, and that one Bongne Island can support 5 of them at the absolute most. I glance at Bongne Island's price and curse the shopkeeper's black heart privately, because the mall values it around 5,000, and here it has more than doubled. Rare things are precious, and this is the true market price, and knowing that does not stop it stinging. Buying Bongne Island is impossible with what I am carrying, so the plan to brew monkey wine at scale has to be shelved for now. Shopkeeper, I say, I want 4 Spirit Peach Mountains. The elderly man who has been dozing behind the counter opens his eyes, and on seeing me his expression turns noticeably more serious. He stands and greets me as a prince, giving his name as An Hei. The status of a human race prodigy really is useful, since the owners of every shop here are third-order gods and every one of them has been courteous to me. I asked manager An Hei whether the stock of Spirit Peach Mountains is sufficient. Naturally, he tells me with a dismissive wave, since Spirit Peach Mountain is not a high-value wonder and turns up constantly in the kingdoms of ape-like foreign gods. 4 is nothing, and he could transfer 400 out of the company if I wanted them. That shocks me more than I let him see. The wonder building I once treated as immensely valuable and lived in fear of having stolen is handled here the way a grocer handles onions. He asks my honorable surname, and I give him my name. Then he asks why Prince Yang Biome is buying 4 at once when the spirit fruit that grows on Spirit Peach Mountain is not high level. I tell him plainly that I plan to invest in Monkey Wine Springs, and I see no reason to hide it. In this city, the meager resources of my kingdom are not worth anybody's coveting. The yield of monkey wine is decent, he agrees, but Spirit Peach Mountain needs a supply of immortal chi. His shop also carries wonders like the Immortal Treasure House, Bongne Island, and the Immortal Lake, and he wonders whether your highness needs any of them, with fair prices guaranteed. I am a little embarrassed, because it is not that I do not need them but that I have no money. Dang Wool steps forward before I have to say so, her tone gone displeased, and tells manager On that he talks too much. He apologizes hurriedly, calling her fellow Taoist Dang Wool, and explaining that minding the shop every day is too boring. Seeing how easygoing Prince Yang Biome is, he could not help chatting a little further. After I'd pay the 2,000 divinity points, my eyes fall on the first line of the Wonder Catalog again. Dragon Marsh Water Palace, 200 divinity points, and I ask what its effects are, mainly because it is the cheapest thing in the shop. It comes from the sea snake race, An Hei tells me, and their kingdoms often hold large numbers of them. Besides improving the aquatic environment, its greatest function is farming dragonfish. They contain a massive quantity of life essence and are an essential resource for any kingdom walking the martial path, with a stable price to match. The kingdom can harvest once a century at a yield rate as high as 3/10 each time, which annualizes past 100% and runs far ahead of the monkey wine spring. His face fills with smiles as he adds that the stock of Dragon Marsh Water Palaces is quite large, and that if I purchase in bulk he can even give me a discount. I glance at my balance and find that I cannot afford 20 of them, so whether that counts as bulk is not a question I am equipped to ask. Instead of answering him, I put a question to Yangwon privately. Given the water surface currently inside my divine kingdom, roughly how many Dragon Marsh Water Palaces will fit? She reports that water accounts for about 2/3 of the kingdom's total area, and that a maximum of 1,000 palaces can be placed. Then I ask what one of them actually earns. She searches and comes back with the arithmetic. 10,000 dragonfish fry cost 1,500 divinity points, and 10,000 adult dragonfish sell for 2,000. Across 100 years of kingdom time, each palace turns an actual profit of roughly 500 divinity points. Hearing that, I cannot help being shocked at how expensive the fry are, and she explains why. Dragonfish reproduce poorly, and only those that have broken through to the nascent soul stage can breed at scale. Those breeders are almost entirely monopolized by the goose spiritual domain, which is what holds the investment cost so high. I ask whether the selling price of adult fish is genuinely as stable as he claims. According to the records, it has not moved in nearly 10,000 years, which makes it a very mature breeding industry. I come back to myself in the shop and find that I half want to return the Spirit Peach Mountains I just bought, because the margin on the Water Palace is plainly better. I ask Anhei how many I would need to buy before a discount appears, and he slowly extends 5 fingers. 5, I say. He stumbles over his own breath and tells me, speechless, that your highness must be joking and that he means 500. Even that is only because of my status, since for any other god he would not part with a 20th off the price under 2,000 units. This is Teiko City, and the small pool of capital in my hands would not raise a ripple if I threw all of it in at once. Funds are limited, I tell him, and I can only manage 2 for now. The wonder itself is not expensive, but the fry have to be bought as well, so I have to hold back enough to stock what I buy. Looking at the first line of that catalog again, I have to swallow. Once I have real funds, this is going to be the largest investment channel I own. Reading my expression, Anhei tries his luck and observes that the records show I have not joined a major family, and wonders whether I would be willing to accept investment. I frown slightly and tell him I do not want to lose my freedom. I have already read one investment contract, and while the price was high enough, the conditions were exactly as heavy. With my evolution talent, insufficient starting capital is a problem that time alone solves. So there is no sense losing something large to gain something small. That is a pity, he says, and suggests we add each other as friends, since he is a staff member of the Goo spiritual domain. If I want water palaces later on, I need only send a message, and he will arrange delivery to my door. I nod, transfer another 400 divinity points, and leave. On the way back, Dang Wool cannot help reminding me that my tenfold time flow talent drains the spiritual chi of a divine kingdom. Aside from believers, other creatures may die off in great numbers, so this kind of investment might not suit me at all. Her reasoning is sound. Spirit Peach Mountain is one thing, since falling spiritual chi only means the fruit stops setting. Dragonfish are delicate, and if the ecology degrades badly, they will die in quantity. She genuinely does not understand why a man who knows he holds tenfold time flow would still sink money into fish. I nod faintly at the warning and say very little, because my talent is not tenfold time flow at all, but the higher dimensional evolution talent, and that is not a sentence I can offer her. Back in my room, I load everything I bought today: 3 immortal breeding towers, 4 Spirit Peach Mountains, and 2 Dragon Marsh water palaces. As the mountains and the towers come down, Bongnay Island starts to look genuinely crowded. The Spirit Peach Mountains take up a great deal of ground and now stand in a ring around the island. The immortal chi it produces no longer dissipates at all and is drunk entirely by them. I tell Yangwon to buy 20,000 dragonfish fry and release them into the water palaces. The palaces themselves take up little room and cause almost no disturbance where they settle into the sea. The calm water only ripples slightly. Then the quality of it clears, and a thread of gentle spiritual chi appears where there was none. Small spirit algae and water grass begin to show among the sand and stone of the seabed, growing slowly and steadily. The change is not large, and it is quietly rewriting the whole aquatic ecosystem. With 20,000 fry released, water that was silent a moment ago carries a little life in it. The fry run about a foot long, slender and smooth, scaled in pale gold, and they give off a soft, faint glow as they swim. I pull up the full state of the kingdom and read it through. Godlord, Yang Biome, Divine Kingdom Area 1 million square kilometers. Talent, listed as F-rank resource with the SSS-Rank evolution talent beneath it. Unique, able to accelerate Divine Kingdom evolution, currently hidden. Believers run to 46 at the 5th tier and 53,000 at the 4th. Below them come 2.33 million at the 3rd, 11 million at the 2nd, 23 million at the 1st, and 11 million mortals besides. Subordinates count nearly 23,000 little spirits. The technique list holds the Everlasting Spring technique at minor mastery, along with the 5 elements cultivation technique and 3 formations. Faith points sit at 44 billion. The building list runs 20,000 moonwells and 20,000 sun springs, plus 1 spiritual vein, 1 alchemy tower, and 4 immortal breeding towers. After those come 100 monkey wine springs, the 100 herb spirit pivot academy, the ancient spirit tree still birthing little spirits, and the enlightenment stone. The wonders are Bongnay Island, 5 Spirit Peach Mountains, and 2 Dragon Marsh water palaces, all deployed. Reading it, all I can do is complain that money does not last. In the short time since the emails arrived, the 10,000 divinity points the Na family invested in me are already gone. 4 more Spirit Peach Mountains mean 400 more monkey wine springs as supporting industry, which is another 8,000 on its own. Then there is the water palace investment and the fry to stock them with. On top of all of that, the directions I can now spend on believers have multiplied. Between the Techo Academy fees and buildings like the towers and the veins, as long as I have enough funds, I can accelerate my believers whenever I want, and every last piece of it needs divinity points underneath. I lower my head and think about the real question. which is what other ways exist to accumulate capital quickly besides selling myself to a large company. With my evolution talent, the more assets sit inside my kingdom, the larger my returns become. Back in Yang County, it would not have mattered that I had no better channels, because there were none to see. In Taicho City, I have now watched too many methods for making believers strong quickly, and I have read the catalogs for their strategic buildings. No honest person could look at that and not be tempted. In a cradle for geniuses like this one, I do not need to worry about performing too brilliantly and drawing envy, which is a freedom I have never had before. The only thing I need to do now is become stronger as fast as possible, because the stronger the potential I display, the better the treatment I receive. That is the single truth these past days have taught me. I need more funds, so my evolution talent can turn them into resources, so those resources can go into believers, so the believers make the whole loop turn faster. Then something occurs to me, and I ask Yang One how much capital I could raise right now if I mortgage the assets of my divine kingdom. She asks in return which assets I mean. All of them, I tell her, and I do not care if the interest runs higher, because the more capital the better. She warns me that the operation is extremely dangerous. The larger the loan, the harder the lending company raises rates to hedge its risk, and even if the Divine Kingdom investments available on the market can cover that interest, the default risk is significant. Once a default happens, the assets are seized by force, and under compound interest, a person can end up under debt he cannot climb out of in a lifetime. Go and inquire immediately, I tell her. Under normal circumstances, covering interest out of investment returns genuinely is risky. But if the investment return is tenfold, it stops being a risk and becomes free money. The sooner I hold the capital, the faster the kingdom develops. To everyone else, a lending platform is a high-risk turnover of funds, and to me it is simply my own bank and a lever with a guaranteed win at the end of it. She executes the order and sends the requirements out to the major lending platforms. Billions of light years from Taiko City, there is a planet with no nature left on it anywhere. As far as anything can see, the entire land is under steel. Beneath the sky, countless machines run between streets and sky rails with precision and almost no downtime, and there is no noise there at all. Only the continuous sound of mechanical operation. At the center of that world stands a core building 10,000 meters high, pitch black, with an enormous light screen logo floating on its face welcoming visitors to elephant lending. On the top floor, a man in casual clothes sips red wine and gives an instruction to number 6 about increasing advertising spend. The headline should read that elephant lending is not interested in money, and that in order to serve its customers, the base interest rate has been lowered from 30% to 29.9%. A mechanical voice interrupts him to say that there is a loan requiring his personal approval. He asks since when he oversees loan business himself, and what the amount and the collateral are. The other party is mortgaging every Divine Kingdom asset they hold. The voice says, and by the data, the approximate capital comes to 30,000 divinity points. Only that much, the man says, and asks whether it is a demigod or a divine creature. A divine creature. Then he sounds quite wealthy, the man decides, so approve it through the normal process and stop disturbing him. But according to the identity information, the voice adds, the other party has been evaluated by the Federation's Supreme Intelligent Life as a human race prodigy. Ma Wu sprays the entire mouthful of wine across the room. He coughs himself upright and demands every file immediately, along with an application for a meeting in the virtual world. A human race prodigy has come to a small company to borrow money, and he cannot work out what is happening or whether he has just hit the jackpot. Mortgaging everything should come to 20 or 30,000 divinity points, I estimate. And then Yang One's voice arrives in my head. A major shareholder of a lending company has applied for a face-to-face meeting. A meeting, I repeat, and my face must look as puzzled as it feels. Capital lending is a financial game, and in this era, every part of it is completed by intelligent life. Assessing risk, signing contracts, issuing agreements, even repossessing collateral later on. None of it requires a god to appear in person anymore. I have no idea why a major shareholder of a lending company would want to look at my face. She passes me his information, and my expression slowly goes strange as I read it. The actual controller of elephant lending is Ma Wu, a fifth-order god. The company was founded in the Divine Kingdom era, is Federation listed, and carries a market value past 10 billion divinity points, with a compound annual growth rate above 2/5. All of it is public data that Yang One has simply organized for me. I only get more confused. Why would somebody at that level want to see me when the assets in my kingdom would not even count as a business worth this afternoon? Since arriving in Taicho City, I have learned repeatedly that what I own amounts to nothing. A fifth-order god is the strongest person I have ever encountered, so I naturally do not dare treat this casually. I put on the helmet and my consciousness goes across. The moment I arrive, a young man with an ordinary and frankly slightly ugly face comes forward to greet me. He calls me young friend Yang Biome, says it is a pleasure, introduces himself as Ma Wu, chairman of Elephant Lending, and declares it an honor that I am cooperating with his company again. I bow and greet him as President Ma. An honest man does not resort to insincerity, he says, so he will simply tell me that he checked the data before coming. I have signed with no listed company and no super family. He sees the potential in my human race prodigy status, and he wants to invest in me. He will bear all my education expenses at Teicho Academy and provide an additional subsidy of 100,000 divinity points every year. The condition is that I come and work at elephant lending after becoming a god, and if I break through to 4th order, he will add an equity reward of 1/10 of the company. He lays it out in short, clear sentences, and I realize the mortgage was never what brought him. He is willing to carry my Teicho Academy education costs, and on that point alone, his sincerity runs ahead of one Dan company. The tuition at the study hall is a significant expense, and both of us know it. I am tempted, and I still shake my head and tell him I do not plan on joining a company. Being refused makes him visibly anxious, and he points out that young friend Yang Biom must be very short of capital. I nod, because if I were not, I would hardly have put every asset I own up as collateral. If I accept the recruitment, he says, the annual subsidy rises to 200,000, which would carry the divine kingdom consumption of an actual god, rather than a divine creature. I tell him I am sorry again. The conditions are enticing, and I am no longer the poor boy who owned nothing. Given enough time, I will not lack divinity points, and time is the one thing my talent hands me for free. I turn to leave since there are many lending companies, and with sufficient collateral, I can raise capital from any of them. This is the virtual world, so his strength is not a thing I have to care about. Watching me turn, he says quickly that we can sign a betting agreement. A betting agreement, I repeat. That is right, he says. He will give me a loan limit of 1 million divinity points, and if I can repay him with interest inside a year, the agreement voids itself automatically. If I cannot, he will not ask for the capital back at all, but I must join his company after I graduate. That gets my attention immediately, and I ask for the specific contents. He snaps his fingers and a thick stack of documents appears in front of me, and since the volume is large, I simply have Yang Won scan and read the whole thing. Her verdict arrives shortly. The interest on that million runs to 200%, so after 1 year I would owe 3 million in principal and interest together. The interest cost far exceeds any Divine Kingdom investment available on the market, and the risk is enormous. If I want to repay inside a year, she says, the only route is breaking into the top million of the Taicho battlefield and taking the reward. Ma Wu is in no hurry and observes calmly that although the terms are somewhat harsh, he doubts any other company on the market would extend that limit at all. I will sign, I tell him. He looks like a man who has hit the jackpot, his whole face flushing with delight, and tells me it is the latest smart contract requiring no signature, only a retinal scan. Once the process finishes, he adopts a sincere expression and tells little Yang not to worry. The company's core business is financial lending. There is little to do, the bonuses are high, there is no danger, and I will not regret it. I ask whether President Ma does not believe I can pay back his 3 million within the year. He laughs and says young people certainly have ambition, and that I should keep it up. Once I am a formal employee, next year I can come straight to him with anything I need. Since a genius with an S-rank talent is somebody he will cultivate with everything he has. Then he leaves the virtual world on that line. In reality, Ma Wu takes off his helmet in an excellent mood, pours himself a glass of red wine, and drinks it down in one motion. His intelligent life asks whether 1 million divinity points is too risky when the other party's assets are so meager. What does it know, he says. What is a mere million divinity points? The man is a human race prodigy, and as long as he does not perish, his eventual achievements will reach 4th order god at minimum. One more middle order god attached to the company could lift its market share by 1/3. Anyone assessed as a human race prodigy either comes out of a major family or gets recruited by a giant corporation the moment their kingdom awakens. He never expected to run into a wild one. He is certain he has won this bet. Give it 1,000 years and perhaps elephant lending will be expanding into other star domains. He lets out a long breath with his face flushed, because repeating the luxurious and dull life of a god every day has left it many years since his heart last moved like this. The intelligent life asks whether it is possible for this person to break into the top million of the Teicho battlefield, since if he succeeds, the loan simply evaporates. Do not worry, Ma Wu says. His talent is tenfold time flow, which is exactly why he needs a massive quantity of resources to feed the accelerated time of his kingdom. He deliberately raised the loan to 1 million, precisely so the boy could not refuse. That kid is probably feeling smug right now, imagining that with capital like that and tenfold development, his believers will pass every other genius shortly. This is Teo Academy, he says. Any demigod who walks out of here at random is a top-tier existence in the outside world. By his calculation, even with his support, the boy might have a chance somewhere in the second half of his sophomore year, and not a day before. The intelligent life calls him wise and says he will surely lead elephant lending to a new level. He tells number 4 it certainly has a way with words, and promises to buy it a high-grade mechanical heart as a reward. Number 4 thanks him for his cultivation. Back in Techo City, my consciousness re-enters my divine kingdom, and I cannot help sighing at how useful this title turns out to be. I have been underestimating my own weight. Purely because of an identity, a fifth-order god was willing to treat me as an equal and hand over 1,000,000 divinity points without blinking. Yang 1 and Yang 2 appear in front of me together. She notes calmly that by the data elephant lending is under 1% the size of one Dan company, and that given my current status there might be better choices available. He adds that in the short term, elephant lending may be more generous, but that the platform matters just as much for future development, and an ordinary financial company will limit how far I grow. I wave a hand to show I understand. Ma Wu did not hide his thinking. He believes I cannot repay inside a year, so he is spending 1,000,000 divinity points to buy a future employee with unlimited potential. What he does not know is that I am the one who has already won. Techo battlefield indeed. Do I need a school reward to clear a debt? Under a tenfold return rate, a mere doubling of interest is comfortable. Earning 2,000,000 divinity points off me in a single year. I wonder privately whether President Ma will be laughing or crying by then. Elephant lending uses smart lending, so the moment the process closes, the million is already sitting in my kingdom. I tell Yang 1 to contact An He and buy the remaining Dragon Marsh water palaces, because I want every stretch of water in the kingdom filled. That single transaction runs close to 200,000 divinity points. Then I tell her to spend another 750,000 on 5,000,000 dragonfish fry, and release all of them into the palaces to be raised. 100 years of kingdom time matures the fish, and 100 years of kingdom time is 10 days out here. I can harvest 3 times a month. Profit runs about 500 divinity points for every 10,000 fish, so a single harvest of this batch nets 250,000, and my principal doubles inside a month. Raising dragonfish is now the highest yielding investment I own, so pouring capital into it is not a decision that requires thought. I keep going and tell her to spend another 8,000 in the mall on 400 monkey wine springs. After the resources the kingdom produces are sold, I add, keep buying, fry, and reinvesting, because the primary goal now is to run the water palaces at maximum output. Yang 1 cannot help reminding me that this will take about a year, and that the capital for the believers meanwhile is going to be thin. Do as I say, I tell her. These intelligent lives cannot perceive my SSS-Rank talent at all, so their suggestions are naturally unsatisfying now and then through no fault of their own. Neither of them understands my methods, and as intelligent lives they will execute their god's instructions regardless. Faith points sit at almost 8 trillion with a daily provision in the hundreds of billions, and I do not plan to move the remainder for now, keeping it as emergency capital. One more thing, I tell them. From today, the daily expenditure at Techo Academy rises to 100 divinity points, and the two of them can arrange the specific courses between themselves. They accept the command together. Back in reality, a knock comes at the door before long. The visitor is a first-order god in a work uniform who tells me respectfully that these are the buildings Senior An He asked him to deliver. A discount of 1/20th was applied, he says, and the excess funds have already been returned to my kingdom. I thank him and load the cards. As the water palaces settle in, the entire water region surges with milky white mist, and the whole environment turns more humid. The quality of a kingdom's environment acts directly on its god, and I feel a wave of comfort roll through me as though my whole body has been lowered into a hot spring. There is no academic pressure at Techo Academy at all. Beyond checking the development of my kingdom each day, I go into the virtual world to see my family. And when I am bored, I visit the heavenly fragrance world to see old friends. 10 days pass that way and bring the first dragonfish harvest. After costs, 5 million fish yield a net profit of exactly 250,000 divinity points. Yang 1 reinvests it into raising more, as instructed, and the fish inside the kingdom already number past 7.5 million. At this rate, it will take less than a month out here to run the palaces flat out. The future is looking bright. Because of the strange atmosphere of this city, resident gods and newly arrived students alike spend most of their time living in the real world. Lately, it has been noticeably noisy outside, and checking the group chat explains why, since the entrance examinations have ended and a flood of freshmen has arrived. My watch chimes with a message from Manhwa, complaining that the living environment in Techo City is simply too poor, and that the noise is unbearable. Ye Jianbong replies that the A-grade dormitories sit too close to ours and that he went over and taught them a lesson. So it is much better now. Manhwa answers that it is a bit of a hassle. Sama Beng explains that the population density here runs about 100 times the outside world, so noise pollution is a genuine problem. Formation plates for soundproofing formations can be bought in the mall. Manhwa thanks him and calls him knowledgeable, attaching a heart. He says he has lived here since childhood and naturally has more life experience. Then he adds that he has slots for a yellow-grade secret realm, and asks whether anyone wants them at 10,000 divinity points each. Yi Jianbong asks whether they are truly that cheap. Internal family price, Sama Bang says, and participants follow a fixed exploration route, so what anyone comes away with depends entirely on luck. Ye Jianbong takes one immediately and says he can harvest tens of thousands of divinity points at the very least. Then he lays on a line about how the Sama family, as one of the 5 giants, is truly generous in nurturing the youth. Mun Oksu takes one too and adds a cheer for Big Brother Sama. While that is happening, I am busy reading up on what a secret realm actually is. Secret realms are ownerless divine kingdoms that have broken away from a god's control while keeping a complete structure. A divine kingdom is essentially an independent island floating in the void realm and held together by the will of its god. When a god dies, some kingdoms do not collapse but stabilize on their own, drifting through the void realm as accessible spaces. The interior keeps a whole ecosystem and resource cycle, and the cycle often runs more actively than outside. Spirit plants multiply fast, minerals and monster beasts recover in very short periods, and all of that gives them high development value. They are graded by the tier of the original kingdom. A heaven-grade secret realm comes from a high-order god, massive in scale with perfected rules and dense resources, and it is extremely dangerous. An earth-grade realm comes from a middle-order god, stable in structure, rich in resources, suited to long-term development, and dangerous besides. A mystic-grade realm comes from a low-order god with moderate resources and moderate danger. A yellow-grade realm comes from a demigod's kingdom, smaller in scale and mostly basic resource production, with low danger. Because their value is immense, major powers usually station legions to guard them permanently and build strongholds to blockade and develop them continuously. Having worked out what I am buying, I message the group that I want one as well and thank him. He tells me to transfer the points to his kingdom and says he will send the entry permits. Then he sends them to all 3 of us without waiting, since he is not worried about any of us defaulting on 10,000. This secret realm is a resource point of his family, he adds. And there is no danger inside, so we need only arrange for intelligent life to collect. The others thank him and suggest gathering again sometime. A profit of tens of thousands of divinity points is enough to excite even children of great families. Perhaps only somebody at his level would spend an opportunity like that purely to place a favor. I transfer the points and study the permit, a one-time yellow-grade secret realm exploration document under the Sama family seal. I place it into my kingdom and tap the coordinates, and a spatial force takes my consciousness instantly. A man in a purple robe standing on a flying sword floats in the air and asks me to present it. I can tell at a glance he is a believer, and at minimum at the Foundation Establishment realm. The aura coming off him runs well past the Foundation Establishment Tree Demon King in my own kingdom. I hand the permit over and he directs me to Channel 864, and an irresistible force drops me into another world entirely. The spiritual chi here is abundant, and the air carries a distinct vitality. The terrain barely undulates, and the spirit plants are distributed in neat arrangements that show faint signs of cultivation. Further out, the auras of monster beasts roam, and even those are not chaotic but follow a pattern that can only be called domestication. As expected of a secret realm guarded by a major power, and it looks very much as though they come through periodically to harvest. As the thought fades, space vibrates slightly. Yang Tu appears first, and behind him exactly 5 million believers spread out like a tide and form up. Collect along the channel, I tell him, and he organizes them and starts the work. Whether it is the spirit plants or the beasts, everything here was clearly released and nurtured by the Sama family beforehand. I do not particularly care about a resource profit this size, and the main reason I agreed was to widen my view. As expected of one of the 5 giants, and they truly do have many ways to raise the younger generation. My consciousness withdraws, and when I open my eyes I am back in reality. I put the helmet on again and go into the virtual world, where 3 invitations arrive almost at once, from Na Bing, Li Suho, and Zhang Pang. I open Na Bing's coordinates first, and looking at the location a flash of disappointment goes through me, because it turns out to be the Na family conference room. I had thought this ice beauty might have missed me, and it appears I was being over-affectionate about it. I start to say her name and stall halfway, unsure how I am supposed to address her now. She bites her lips slightly and tells me to just call her Na Bing, then asks how Teiko Academy is. It is all right, I say, and quite free. The entrance examinations are over and her results are out, and she is going to Cheonsu University in the Nacheon Star domain. She delivers it the way a person delivers a status report to a superior, and I nod to show I have understood. In this era, nobody applies to a university themselves, since the moment results are released, an intelligent life assigns everyone automatically. Then she looks straight into my eyes and asks whether I want it. I cough hard enough to hurt and ask why on earth she would say that, and my old face turns red. Then why, she asks, have I been staring at her chest? Sorry, I tell her, force of habit. She calls me a pervert and is out of the virtual world before I can assemble a defense. I am left standing there completely stunned. Of course I want it, and the conference room would have been perfectly acceptable, and I do not understand why anybody had to run. I shake my head, smile bitterly at nothing, and tap Jang Pang's coordinates instead, where I am greeted with the news that Godfather's son has missed him to death. He lunges at me the moment I appear, and I raise a foot and kick him away, telling him to stay back because I am straight. Both of us are only consciousness bodies here, and the sensations are extremely real, so he gets up off the ground rubbing his backside. He is straight as well, he says, wounded, and was only expressing how much he missed me. I roll my eyes and tell the kid to act normal and explain why he wanted me. He reminds me that at the start of the year I told him to invest in blood-condensing flowers. With the bonus from his planting talent, he and his father harvested 2 batches in total and cleared 80 million faith points. I say that much out loud before I can stop myself. Jangman-san does well in the Myeongwol community, and he is at best a king of the slums, so I want to know exactly how much they put in. His father mortgaged their real estate and their shops, Jang Peng explains, and then mortgaged the buildings inside his divine kingdom to a finance company, so the investment ran a little on the large side. There is relief under his tone as he says it, and there should be, because if the purchase price of blood-condensing flowers had fallen even slightly, the interest alone would have crushed that family. Uncle Jang is bold, I tell him, and give it a genuine thumb up. Off one sentence from me, the man staked his entire net worth. The old hands really do bite harder. Back then, if I had not held my evolution talent and its harvest every 20 days, I would never have dared place a bet with that weight behind it. His father wants to give me 50 million of the 80, he says. Uncle Jang is being very generous, I answer, and I am genuinely a little surprised. Tens of millions of faith points are meaningless to me now, and they are not meaningless to that household at all. He agrees that his dad is being too generous and laughs stupidly about it, then repeats the reasoning, which is that the most valuable thing was the information itself. If it had come from his father's main god classmate instead, the family would have been fortunate to keep a fifth of the profit. He was also told to follow me closely, and the gist is that later on he might be able to start a large company off nothing but my name. He was told as well that I have caught the eye of some serious people now, so he should watch his mouth and stop being reckless. There were apparently a great many other instructions, and he did not retain most of them, which he reports while scratching his head. I roll my eyes and tell him to drop the act, because he is overdoing the playing dumb routine badly, and to keep the money since I do not want it. Godfather is too good to him, he says at once. He has heard I earned over 80 billion from the Class 1 Divine Kingdom resource collection, so there is no chance I would look twice at the small change in his hand. Then why bring it up at all, I ask. Whether I want it is one thing, he says, and whether he offers it is a matter of his attitude. And as somebody clinging to my leg, he still needs a little emotional intelligence. Develop your kingdom properly, I tell him, and it would be best if you can break through to demigod, because I have no interest in attending your funeral early. He pulls a frightened face and asks me not to say unlucky things when he still wants to live many more years. Today I will let him keep riding my coattails, I say, and tell him to come with me to meet somebody. A classmate, Lee Soo-ho. I forward the coordinates and he reads the destination and grins wickedly, delighted that the location is the Heavenly Fragrance World and that he gets to mooch off me for another night. When we arrive, the place we appear in is not one of the ordinary private rooms outside, but a presidential suite. I am familiar with this building by now, and Jang Pang goes around it like a farmer let loose in a palace, head turning without stopping. Lee Soo-ho stands to welcome us, calling me Great Genius Yang, and stumbling briefly over how to address Jang Pang before settling on Brother Jang. I tell him politely that he has spent too much. The fact that we came means we treat him as a brother, he says, so how could I say such a thing? And today is on him and the three of us should enjoy ourselves. He raises his glass and we drink. I hold nothing against Lee Soo-ho, since it was only natural back then for him to be asking around about me on somebody else's behalf. The word brother is polite noise, and the two of us are acquaintances at most. The cost of a presidential suite here means nothing to me now, and the reason I accepted the invitation and brought Jang Pang along is different from what either of them thinks. Coming alone every time gets dull. Sometimes everyone playing together is simply a different kind of fun, and joy shared beats joy hoarded.